welcome to a special New Year's Eve edition of Second City Sports, our last show of 2021, baby. Right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
And I was gonna do some like weird noisemakers, but I know that this first time we're gonna kind of slow it down a little bit. You follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps, whether it's the Apple iTunes Store, Amazon, or Google Play. Make sure you can catch any of our 5 live shows, including this one, Second City Sports. If you miss them, that's why you download the app, because you know why? We said so, that's why. And you can catch any of our previous shows. You can listen and watch them at your own leisure. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want to catch the audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, you can do so by subscribing to War on Anchor. You can type in War on Anchor wherever you get your podcasts, including that iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in those podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media at WAR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Excuse me. Once again, at War Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're not unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. Lakeena, this is supposed to be a happy show, a celebration of us and what we have done this year. We will get to that later on in the show. But we also owe our listeners and viewers the very best, like we always do our jobs. And sometimes we have to talk about things that happens in real life. And this is the other part of the job that we try to avoid, because sports is an aversion. But we will not be doing our jobs if we're not talking about these 2 gentlemen that made an impact on the football world. We are, of course, talking about ESPN Chicago reporter and talk show host Jeff Dickerson and Pro Football Hall of Famer coach and broadcaster Mr. John Madden. Let's start out with the local impact first. Jeff Dickerson of ESPN Chicago. Born and raised. He passed away yesterday at the age of 44 due to his battle of colon cancer. He covered the Bears for ESPN 1000 WMVP AM in Chicago for 20 years. He previously worked and interned at The Score when it switched to 670 in 2000 WSCR, of course, leaving for ESPN in 2001. He rose to the ranks as the afternoon show producer, and he covered the Bears a couple years later. He was on the beat ever since. You saw him on NFL Live on various programs. He hosted a weekend, a nationally syndicated radio talk show with our good friend Jonathan Hood. We got to get him on the program sometime soon. But he co-hosted Dickerson and Hood, talking not just football, but other various sports throughout the country, not just in Chicago. Of course, he wrote a column from ESPN.com covering the Bears. He was, Lakeena, just reading the tributes from various colleagues, both locally and nationally. He is an upstanding gentleman. He was about the gentleman on and off the job, and he would do anything for anybody winning if he could. I know Joseph Phillips gave a good tribute on Sean and Maya in the morning earlier today, and we're reading some of the tributes to our colleagues, and yes, including a few the guests that cover the Bears that we had on this program before. They were very touching, very heartfelt, and I did listen to the Waddle and Sylvie extension of their show yesterday. They were on for an additional 2 hours. It was Fred Huebner, Mark Silverman, Tom Waddle, Carmen DeFalco, Randy Mergen, who's one of the reasons why I'm here doing what I'm still doing now. And they were talking about how Jeff Dickerson still held it together after his wife passed away a couple years ago. And our thoughts and condolences go out to the Jeff Dickerson family. Of course, there's son Parker, who's 11 years old now. That young man needs a whole lot of love right now. He's going to get it, but just to lose both your parents like that, I can only imagine. It's just losing one parent is bad enough. As I lost both my parents. My father, he died died. He was a firefighter. He died on duty before I turned 3 years old. Of course, I lost my mother 9 years ago. So it's tough. It's tough when you lose a parent, but just for Parker to go through what he's going through right now, I can only imagine losing your parents in a couple of years span like that. I repeat, I do not wish that on anyone.
You really don't. And there actually is a GoFundMe right now that Jeff's sister-in-law Jen set up a couple of weeks ago. A couple of days ago, I should say. It's already exceeded $300,000, and I believe I saw something from Adam Schefter saying that Jeffrey Lurie, who's the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, he donated $10,000. So just amazing the outpouring of support for
Hmm.
Parker, and also to Jeff's parents, George and Sandy. I know they're having a hard time right now as well. And when I also listened to some of that extension with the Wallace Sylvia extension, the couple hours last night. You guys should look at it. It's on the ESPN Chicago app. You guys can listen to it. It's just hearing a lot of the callers and the emotion. But
Hmm.
Ralph from the Southeast Side, who was a loyal listener, he really got me. All the calls have been his, especially because he started tearing up, and he has, I think, one of his kids is about Parker's age, and and just to hear him say, and it kind of it hits you. And I know that Jonathan Hood, Hoodie, a good friend of ours, I know their days go all the way back to when they were both producers at the Score together,
Hmm.
like 20 some odd years ago. And he was all morning he's been posting various snippets of their shows, Dickerson and Hood, and it kind of just hit me that, well, wait a minute, we're not going to hear him anymore. We're not going to hear JD's voice anymore doing Bears hits. We're not going to hear him, um, putting David Kaplan in his place, because he was one of the few guys that
Yes.
to ever put Cappy in his place, and always, it was, it just, it was just funny to me. And he had that, that quick wit. He was a straight shooter. He had that humor. And listening to some of the stories that some of his friends and colleagues, I heard other good friend of ours, ABC7 Chicago's Deion Miller, who we got to get her
Hmm.
on again. She shared a story that when she first started, she was at Fox 32 Chicago, when she was doing sports there, they all went to dinner, and it was just some of the other stories. Like I started kind of getting teared up. And Peggy Kaczynski, who I just saw before we did the crosstalk with Sean, she also shared a story about he would have
Hmm.
all the beat reporters have he would plan everything, planning the meals and where to go, where they were going after before and after
Hmm.
games and such. And listening to some of the listeners also too. I was fortunate to meet JD a couple of years back when he was a guest speaker over at IMS Chicago in their old Chicago State Street campus on State. And he was just the epitome of grace, and had that that, like I said, had that quick witty humor, and just genuinely one of the nicest people in the business. And like I said, he was a straight shooter. And like I said, he had that, he was very knowledgeable, and he was always not want to say Pollyannish when it came to the Bears, but he always always on the bright side when it came to the Bears. When the Bears were in that terrible season a couple years ago with Trubisky was just playing terribly. He always said, "Oh, it's not as bad as it looks." And then this and that. So, and I know he got into it with a couple of callers, because of that. But he was always, he always he always put a smile on your face. And that's the one thing that's hardest right now, that he will be missed. And I know I totally get, hearing some of the other colleagues, Courtney Cronin, who does a great job covering the Vikings, she, that JD encouraged her to, when she first started doing radio for ESPN. He was the one that kind of like encouraged, like, she didn't think, because she had never done it before, but she was able to get the confidence. Now she's one of the top people over at the ESPN radio side. Also, too, of course, she does a great job
Hmm.
covering the Vikings. Kevin Seifert, who did it prior to her, now he's doing it nationally, the NFL. He shared a really beautiful obituary. I would implore folks to read it if they when they get a chance to listen to some of the stories, because he is someone that's one of the nicest guys. He was one of the nicest guys and nicest people, I should say, in the business. And he is definitely going to be missed by all of us. And, we got to make sure, I'm sure Parker's going to have a great support system around him, and, make sure they need, the guidance. And I know he's a big baseball. He's been playing baseball. Jeff was coaching him in baseball. So I'm sure, make sure he keeps get that dream alive. And just, if he can, there's various, various Twitter accounts that are that shared it. So just look it up, and it was like, I think it's like GoFundMe for Parker or something like that. So make sure you guys, if you can't give or if you can't share, so that people can give.
You're listening to a special edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. This is our last show for 2021, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. We are paying tribute to Jeff Dickerson and John Manning. We'll get into our thoughts about his passing coming up in just a minute. If you have a question or comment during any of our topics on today's show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, I know that Mr. Dickerson passed away from colon cancer. I kept thinking about this last night. Another Chicago TV legend passed away, and his anniversary is coming up in a couple of weeks, and that's Stuart Scott. I know cancer is an ugly, ugly word. If you don't know anybody in your immediate family, you know someone that knows someone that knows someone that's passed away through this ugly disease. And just hearing Jeff Dickerson's story, how the entire staff from ESPN 1000 listened to that program last night, how they visited him. He wanted it private because he didn't want anybody to feel sorry for him, and that's his right. I have no issue with it at all. But it's just like I think Fred Humner brought it up last night because he went through his battles a couple of years ago. I'm glad he's healthy and working on the other side of it. But he said we made so much advance on it. Of course, Mark Silverman talked about the same thing. He went through it last year during COVID. So there was a lot of advancements that have been made throughout the years, but it's still have a long way to go. It saves some lives, but we got to save a whole lot more.
And also, too, Freddie sadly lost his wife a few years back, right before he went through his own diagnosis. And it's one of those days where I had a cousin. I had a cousin. She passed away a couple months ago, just under a couple of months ago, because of cancer. And then look, it's an ugly disease, and to see people, having to go through the chemo, and listening to what the guy said last night, sharing JD's journey. And the fact that he was supposed to have had surgery yesterday, but it got to the point where that the chemo would have killed him. And it just makes you, it just really, it kind of, shakes you to the core. I can't imagine when he had his surgery earlier this year, what he went through. Because from what Waddle and the others, what they told, it sounded pretty bad. And look, he had every right to kind of keep it. I know Freddie was very upfront, with his wife's battle and his own battle. I know, of course, we know Sylvie was very, forthcoming with his battle. We shared his journey, Sylvie strong, and look, JD wanted to keep it private, and look, that's his right. I mean, that he was always, he's always been a very private person when it came to his personal life. I actually didn't know until like a couple years before his wife passed away. If you remember his wife, it was just maybe like a mole or something in her finger. That's what started her 6 or 7 year battle, and then now he had to go through it, and it's just unfortunate. And but the V Foundation, I know there's been like massive donations to the V Foundation, and if you can, and other cancer organizations, American Cancer Society and other organizations, if you want to donate, if you can, because we really got to beat this disease. Because yes, there have been some advances, but unfortunately, you still have people who will lose their lives to cancer. And also I've given to St. Jude too. It's a children's cancer. Children has to have enough, they shouldn't have to go through, cancer either. So if you can, there are great organizations like I just mentioned, and just give what you can. Also share, spread the word, and so they can give.
Yeah, how I found out about Dickerson's condition, I saw a tweet. One of the Bears reporters retweeted David Kaplan's tweet from over the weekend, sending our thoughts and prayers to Jeff Dickerson. Maybe they knew that it was going to make a turn for the worse. I don't know. We'll never know. But I said, "Whoa, that doesn't sound good." And I saw some article on the internet that suggested colon cancer, but that article said it wasn't sure. Of course, now we know why he passed away yesterday. So I said, "Wow, there's someone said it on Twitter yesterday. Life is so cruel. Some things are unfair, but things happen for a reason. I believe." Sometimes we don't know until later. Sometimes we may not know at all. But Jeff Dickerson was a heck of a reporter. I'm going to miss his hits on the radio. I'm going to miss him co-hosting with Jonathan Hood. I enjoyed his work. I never got a chance to meet him face to face, but I respected his work. He's definitely going to be missed. So, from all of us at Sports Zone Chicago, and especially here at Second City Sports, Jeff Dickerson, thank you.
Yeah, and just Rayford Weigel, who you guys did sports here, he did news here for a few years. If you remember, his dad Tim, went through this, and I think he shared,
Mhm.
something very similar to what you said that life can be cruel sometimes, and I know I thought of Rayford when I saw that tweet, because I know, because if we remember, his dad went through this, Tim, and we saw,
Yes.
he worked, this 25 years ago or something, a little over 25 years
Mhm.
ago, something like that, give or take. And I remember he kept working until he wasn't able to. And I can only
He was
imagine.
support, in my opinion, he was support Ms. Mark Jean Greco.
Yeah, yeah. And he, that, it's just unfortunate. And, I still miss him. I tell Ray for, I just told Ray for a couple of days ago, I still miss him. And I know he does, and him and his sister Jen do too. And I'm
Yeah,
gonna
his
miss Jen.
sister and I share the same birthday.
Yeah. So, oh,
Mhm.
cool. So yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the two of them, and also you're thinking about Parker, and it's going to be a big void in the Chicago sports media.
Mhm.
JD, was, like I said, smart, quick witted, puts himself, a self aside, and let others, put others, needs ahead of others, and put his others needs ahead of,
Mhm.
See, I can't talk right now. I'm still I'm still upset, but he put others, needs first before his own. And he's definitely going to be missed. And like you said, so he's going to be missed in the Chicago airways and on TV. And it's just sad all the way around.
Yeah, so peace and love to the Jeff Dickerson family and the entire ESPN radio and WSS the Score Sports Radio 6 family, both radio families. Are you listening to a special edition of Second City Sports? We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. Let's pay tribute to another football legend, Pro Football Hall of Famer, head coach and broadcaster John Madden, who passed away at the age of 85 yesterday. He coached in the NFL for a decade, went to 6 AFC title games. As you mentioned, Lakeena, he won Super Bowl 10. As I said on Sean and Maya in the morning earlier today, I'll say it again here for our audience. If you're from a certain generation, you know him as a head coach. If you're
Hmm.
from another generation like ours, you know him. You've known him as a broadcaster slash his name going into on to the video games. For a different generation, for a younger generation, you don't know him as a broadcaster. You just know him as a guy with a name on a video game. So he,
Yeah.
he crossed paths from various generations. His impact on pro football will never be forgotten. He had a quick wit humor about him. He explained the game, kind of like what Kenny Smith does now with the NBA on
Hmm.
TNT. He could come at it from his own personal angle, but he could do it without insulting you. Yeah, you can get the point that he's trying to make without you being insulted, and that's what John Madden did. And also, he brought entertainment into the game as well. And so he was one of the founding fathers of making what the NFL is today. Because when we were growing up, Lakina, we talked about this off topic a couple of months ago. The NFL in the 80s and the early
Yep.
90s, it wasn't nowhere damn near where it is today. John Madden was
Exactly.
one of those forefathers that brought the popularity of it to pop culture status where it is now. And definitely with the video games that helped that, we'll get more into that in just a moment. But as far as his broadcasting, him and Summerall, the late Pat Summerall, were great together. But of course, Pat Summerall was not, I repeat, was not his first broadcast partner. It was
No.
actually Vince Scully, who retired a couple
Oh,
years ago from the Dodgers. And of course, I forgot who else he worked with. Then he worked with Summerall for the rest of his time with
he worked with
CBS when
Bob.
they had.
He worked with Bob Costas for a little bit as well locally. Then he went
Okay.
with Vince Scully. Then of course with the Pat Summerall,
Hmm.
and then of course Al Michaels, did for two networks. Remember they did it at
Hmm.
ABC for their Monday Night Football coverage, and
Yeah.
the early part of the Sunday night coverage on NBC. So
Hmm.
he called 11 Super Bowls in the span of the four networks that I mentioned. So he just epitomized, took everything to a whole new level when it comes to analysts, being an analyst. I want to share this real quote real quick. He said,
Hmm.
this is from years ago: coaching isn't work, it's more than a job, it's a way of life. No one should go into coaching unless he couldn't live without it. Football is what I am. I didn't go into it to make a living or because I enjoyed it. there's much more to it than just enjoying it. I am totally consumed by football, totally involved. I'm not into gardening or any other hobbies. I don't fish or hunt. I'm in football. So, and if you remember, he was only 32 when he first got the job with the Oakland Raiders. Al
Yeah.
Davis saw something in him, and he ended up winning a Super Bowl just a few years, about a decade later, like 9 years later. And he was, just like you said, Sid. I mean, he definitely kind of helped, take it to a whole nother level. And I know some of the players that are still with us from that team, has shared some memories of his coaching style. That he was, he's kind of he was more of a, he could be, harsh, and he never swore. I think I heard like a couple of players say, and he kind of taught you guys taught him like a family. They were also like a family, and you saw that when they won that Super Bowl 10 and 11, I should say. And and also as analysts too. I mean, I remember there was a video that was someone posted online that has gone viral. This had to be like in the mid-90s. It was between Washington and Dallas. He and of course someone were doing the game, and I guess Troy Aikman at the time was growing a beard, or at least trying to, and he had like a little line where in his jawline, I think it was like his left side of his jawline, and he has nothing there, and he had like upper lip. He has nothing in his upper lip. And of course, him being blonde, they're both blonde. He said John said, blonde hair guys don't don't grow their beards, and I don't know. Somebody got to ask Troy. I mean, that was like years. It was like after his 29th birthday. This was like years ago, but it was yeah. So he wasn't afraid to kind of make that, to make fun, not make fun, but kind of like had that, like you say, had that quit wit about it.
Mhm.
And you hear some of the interviews from the other players. Lawrence Taylor said that he became a better player because of Madden. Emmitt Smith said, look, I think he helped drive him to reach that NFL rushing record, among others too. And I can't wait to see that all Maddens, because it's now available on ESPN Plus, Peacock, and on Tubi TV, which is a free streaming service that Fox owns. I know the big Fox is going to air tomorrow at 8 our time, Central Time. So if you guys didn't watch it like I didn't, you gotta check it out. But yeah, I mean, he's another guy that's going to be missed.
I actually watched this game over the summer, and I remember watching the clip at the time. Of course, we were talking about the NFL. It was starting to become national, but it wasn't yet. Do you remember the famous 4th-and-1 play, Dallas at Philadelphia in 1995?
Yes.
Of course, we couldn't see the game live locally in Chicago because the Bears, unfortunately, that season they were stinking it up and pissing away a playoff spot. But the Bears are a whole nother issue. But Emmitt Smith ran for the 4th down mark. He got stopped, but it was a clock mismanagement, and so the 2-minute warning came up, and so Dallas was able to, were given the grant of trying it again. They tried the same play. Barry Switzer was the head coach at the time. They gave it to Emmett again. Emmett lost 2 yards, and John Madden was really close to cursing. He's like, "What the heck is going on?" Blah, blah, blah. He totally lost it. You guys could go find it on YouTube. It was hilarious. I remember at the time hearing that clip, I was like, "Ooh," he really wanted to step out on that one and really go off. But I found it to be a very funny moment. But he was very entertaining. Like we talked about earlier, Lakeena, his video games, especially during the early years. I didn't have them. I didn't start buying them until I start, earning money, scraping up chore money. And of course, you start working in the real world. You're able to buy some things and prioritize some things. But those Madden video games, if I didn't own them or didn't get them for Christmas, I rented them for Blockbuster Video. I played every last one of them up until a few years ago. Those games, you talked about it earlier too, Lakeena and Sean and Maya. Those graphics, we thought they were cool in the 90s. I'm glad they gotten better today, but the gameplay is so suspect. It's so suspect. You can find those videos on YouTube. We won't go into that part here, but it's just those video games were very entertaining. Playing against your friends, against classmates. It was very time consuming. I'll just say that. I'll share a couple of covers real quick. For those of you listening back on our replay at War or Anchor, I'll describe the covers the best way I can. We got those people that can see watching right now. This is Madden 07, Sean Alexander from Seattle on the cover. Of course, remember they named the games a year ahead of time.
Yes.
And so this was 07. This was the year the Bears went to the Super Bowl, lost to the Colts. And I was without Madden cards, without those cheating cards, I was the man with Devin Hester. Of course, that was Devin Hester's rookie year. I had like 5 returns for a touchdown, including one in the Super Bowl that year on this game. It was tremendous. Now, this is Madden 08. Vince Young on the cover. We know what happened to Vince Young. We won't get into that. 09. This is Madden 09. Brett Favre on the cover. This was iconic, but it was very controversial at the time only because Brett Favre was traded to the Jets. We all know why, because he wanted to be a diva. He didn't want to go to training camp. Packers management said, we had enough of you. Get your ass up out of here.
Right. Well, and if you saw the NFL social media team, that they do a great job overall, but they had a nice little collage of all that Madden covers and how they've evolved over the years from the very first one in '88 to the current one with Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. And like you said, I mean, the graphics have gotten better. I mean, just the gameplay. I agree with the gameplay. I used to play Madden like constantly. I had a couple of those Madden games. I know Peyton Hillis was on one. I know
yes, people were, those 12. Yeah.
So people were kind of like, wait a minute, that's random. No, yeah, for a couple of years he was one of the top tailbacks in the league. But I mean, how the game has evolved, graphics wise. I mean, and like you said, Sid, I mean, the gameplay has been, kind of gone down a little bit. I know our buddy Ivan said the same thing, but but I think, look, he made money and he, definitely helped develop those games, and, he wasn't, afraid to put his face on those games. And I think, look, there are Madden tournaments now that have been for years all over the country. I think they've expanded to Canada too. Again, this was pre-pandemic, but ended up, so he was just a great analyst, a great businessman, and also a great coach. He didn't have a single losing season when he was with the Raiders. So, he just sort of epitomized how to, make a name for yourself outside of using football to kind of like be in pop culture. So he definitely helped that in that respect.
Yeah. Just a couple more before we take our break. Of course, this was the last year that John Madden broadcast an NFL game. This was Madden 43. 10. Yeah, this is between Pittsburgh and Arizona. Of course, that game was on NBC, and that was John Madden's last broadcast. Of course, Madden 11, this is the year after they won their Super Bowl. Drew Brees. And then, of course, PS3, now Hall of Famer Calvin Johnson of the Detroit Lions. Shout out to our good buddy Dan Miller, Lions radio play-by-play man. So those, I was thinking about some of those covers. I still have some of those games around, so let me pull them out. So now this PlayStation 5 and 4, I was like, you can tell I still have a PlayStation 3. And I was thinking about it last night. I said, if anyone has a cheap PlayStation 2 that I sold mine a few years ago, I said, anybody has a cheap PlayStation 2 system and still working, give it to me. I wanted to play those games so bad, and I never Madden last night. I swear on my life. So do you have a PS2 around, Lakeena?
I did, and I know. Yeah, I gave it away to my nephews. I'm sure he probably sold it. So, but I mean, thinking about those games and how good those games were, and like I said, how the games have evolved. And hey, what's up, Armando? Yeah, so we're our buddy Armando Larger.
Hey, Armando.
Thank you for supporting us through this year. And look, I mean, he's I'm sure he was still a big part of the development of the game. Even in his last couple of years, I'm sure his health started declining. But he's definitely one of those guys that will be remembered, not just for my mom sort of, John Madden passed away. Like, and she of course she remembered from his Tough Acting Tenacta commercials. Remember those ones? Those commercials, guys, from way back.
Those flaming feet, Tough Athlete's foot.
Boom, yeah, it was just amazing. And he's definitely another guy that's going to be missed. He was 85, and I know that the NFL Network's going to be showing a lot of his program dedicated to him today, including that for Super Bowl 43, which is going to be his last game with Al Michaels on NBC. Between the Steelers and the Cardinals, which actually was one of the better Super Bowls in the last 20 years. But just another guy that's going to be missed, and just an iconic. I know he and Pastor Ron will be calling this year's Super Bowl up from heaven. So
yeah, and shout out to our buddy Armando again. Lakeena, if you can get that comment up, he says that man defined watching the NFL game, and I put that out on my tweet at SidKid80 and also on Instagram last night. I know I keep saying real quick before we hit the bottom of the hour. Do you remember? I know you remember all those Madden teams they used to do every year. I think after 2001 they stopped it. I think when he left Fox they stopped. I put up a clip on my Twitter last night, and I got it on my Insta stories at SidKid80 on Instagram. They have, you can look this up, folks. It's still up on YouTube. The All Madden team from 1985. Of course, they filmed it right after the Bears beat the what out of the Los Angeles Rams at Soldier Field. I believe it was 30-0, the NFC Championship game. He had almost the entire Bears defense on his Madden team.
Yes,
and of course, on offense, he had the punky QB Jim
Yes.
McMahon, and of course, the late great Walter Payton from the offensive side on the All-Man team. I used to watch those every year. Of course, he had those All-Man teams in his video games. Of course, they don't have them on there anymore.
Yeah, they actually, the Madden rating, I saw the guys over at Get Up were doing it something earlier. I think Jeff Saturday said he had like a 90 on his. Dominic Foxworth, had 82, and I think Ryan Clark had like a low 90s, like a 93 or something like that. So, I think nowadays I think people feel sort of like play around with the numbers a little bit too much. But yeah, I think it was considered an honor when to be on the All Madden team. So both in the game and both in the NFL, the big NFL. So it was considered an honor. So yeah, I'm just gonna be watching that All Madden documentaries on Peacock or other streaming services. Like I said, ESPN Plus has it, Tubi has it. If you have that, it's a free streaming service. I know the Big Fox is going to be airing it the next couple of days, tomorrow especially. So make sure you guys check that out because from what I heard, it was a great doc.
Yeah. Thank you to Mr. John Madden for all you did for the game of pro football. Your legacy will definitely live on forever. On the flip side, we'll talk about the Chicago Bulls. They are still on the roll. They'll host the Atlanta Hawks at the UC tonight. We'll get into the best and worst of the NBA from the last couple of days. And we'll preview Michigan and Georgia, along with Alabama and Cincinnati for the college football playoff coming up on Friday. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You're listening to a special edition of Second City Sports live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. Hall of Fame football coach and broadcasting icon John Madden has passed away at the age of 85. Madden was the head coach of the Oakland Raiders for 10 years. He led the franchise to a Super Bowl title following the 1976 season. He then moved into broadcasting where he covered 11 Super Bowls for all 4 major TV networks over 30 years. Bob Costas on the legacy that Madden leaves.
He affected everything. The way games were produced, the way they were directed, and the way other broadcasters, play-by-play men and analysts both, prepared. It was not standard procedure until John came along to have a scheduled meeting with the head coach and with maybe the quarterback and several other key players the day before the game. It was sort of just catch as catch can. And John said no.
For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
You need to shop Kohl's right now. I mean, they have so many deals. I got 60% off holiday decor, so I'm set for next year. Fleece for under $20 and 60% off bedding. Even better, I used the Kohl's cash I earned from my holiday shopping and got it all in less than an hour with free store pickup. Who's ready to ring in the savings? Select styles ends December 31st. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. So a friend told me about Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, and his exact words were, "It changed my life. I used to spend a ridiculous amount of time trying to remove tomato sauce from inside our microwave and soap scum off the bathtub. It's like seriously magic, and my secret weapon for cleaning the kitchen, bathroom, doors and walls, and even keeping my sneakers clean. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. Greatest invention ever. Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, the unicorn of cleaning.
Welcome back to a special edition of Second City Sports. Happy New Year, everybody. Not yet, but this is our last show for 2021. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. If you have a question or comment during any of our topics up for today's show, we have less than 90 minutes remaining. You could do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your questions or comments in the comments section, and Lakeena will get them up and running for you. But if you decide to troll or do something stupid, Lakeena will give you the bill and be a boot.
Bye-bye.
And speaking of giving the opponents the boot, as we talk, Chicago Bulls now switching over to basketball. The Bulls are currently 21-10 on the season. They'll host the Atlanta Hawks tonight at the United Center at 7:00 p.m. is the return of Bulls broadcaster Stacey King. He'll rejoin Adam Amin at the exiting health and safety protocols. Lakeena, let's review Monday's game, which took place in Atlanta between the Bulls and the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks, good grief. We'll talk about them next hour. The Bulls defeated the Atlanta Hawks 130-118. DeMar DeRozan had a game-high 35 points off of 14 of 20 shooting, including 2 for 2 for three-point range. But Zach LaVine chipped in with 30 points in 37 minutes of action, including 11 of 22 from the field and 5 of 8 from three-point range. Kobe White had a bounce-back game with 13 points, including 5 of 11 shooting and 3 of 7 from three-point range. Lakeena, as I said before, defense didn't show up particularly at all in Atlanta on Monday, but I like the way this team is playing defensively. But during the game on Monday, of course, scoring 130 points, you're going to get contributions up and down the roster, and that's what we saw on Monday as the Bulls took advantage of Atlanta's injuries and health and safety protocol situations that Atlanta's going through right now. The Bulls picked up a much-needed win.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those sort of like back and forth for a little bit. Just when you thought that maybe the Bulls were kind of, trying to pull away, but then Trae Young hits, who was, in his first game back from protocols, hit a big shot. He had 29. Cam Reddish was 8 for 13 from 3, so I think that kept the Hawks in it. But the Bulls did what they needed to do. Zach LaVine had 30. Vucevic had 24 and 17 at a double-double. Kobe White, he did what he could, in lieu of Lonzo Ball. He had 13, including some a couple of key steals at the end of the game, and also too, of course, DeRozan had 35. And I think DeRozan and Zach are the first pair of Bulls to score 30 points plus points in a game in a long time. So that's pretty impressive feat in itself. And now, as far we talked about, as our buddy Armando said, he was back in 1989 watching his Bulls team. You see they're starting to turn around. And
hopefully Billy Donovan doesn't become Doug Collins, losing it on the sidelines. I'm just saying.
And look, Chris, remember Billy is still in Coach Donovan, I should say, is still in a health and safety protocol. So it's been Chris Fleming. He's kind of his audition for an NBA job, but he's done a great job, kind of keep everything kind of status quo, but adding his little mix to it. So. And look, Io, had 8 points. He kind of struggled a little bit, but again, it's his first game back from health and safety protocol. So
he had a big block on Trae Young.
He did. He really did.
That was a nice block.
Helped cement that win for the Bulls and keep the Hawks at bay. But yeah, I mean, look, I know that people are getting, people are noticing the Bulls now after everyone thought, DeRozan's he's not a good fit. They're not gonna. He and LaVine are gonna clash and blah blah blah. That's not to be the case. And I just want to finish this point that I like the fact that people around the country are now talking about the Bulls, but I if you're the Bulls, I would rather ignore the noise, just do your thing. You got Atlanta tonight. We'll see. You got a couple of days off to kind of you kind of had a day off to kind of refresh, recharge. They're still having issues. They're still shorthanded. I think they put more guys in health and safety protocols, so it's probably still going to be a close one tonight, but I think it's all set up now for the Bulls to kind of, pad some wins.
Yeah, and this is where coaching comes in. As you mentioned, Billy Donovan is still in health and safety protocols. Hopefully he gets well, most importantly, and then he'll return to the sideline very soon. But this is where coaching comes in, because remember, Billy Donovan, when he started coaching in the NBA, he had those superstar teams in Oklahoma City. Of course, they were considered to be one of the top teams in the league to go for the title. Of course, they fell short that, even though they had a couple of serious cracks at it. But this is a young core, a young team in Chicago. This is where coaching comes in. Of course, everybody's going to pat you on the back. People have been doing that here locally so far. Now, nationally, as you mentioned, people are starting to pat them on the back. Yes, there's still a few questions out there. Is this team for real? Or will they fold? When are they going to fold? They're going to fall flat on their face. This is where Billy Donovan's impact, his presence comes in, because this is true just in life in general. When people pat you on the back, when you do something wrong, everybody's going to go against you. So you got to block out all the noise and concentrate what you do. After that, all the pomp and circumstance will take care of itself.
It will, it will, and I kind of feel like the Bulls are sort of like it's right there for the Bulls to kind of like get there to win the Central Division. I feel like.
And also too, you like the depth on this Bulls roster right now. Troy Brown Jr., Avanso McKinnon, who they just signed a couple of days ago. Also, you have rookie Io DeSumo, who, as we talked about just a moment ago, he made a great impact on Monday, scoring 8 points in 25 minutes of action, including the big defensive block on Trae Young, which turned that game around for Chicago in the second half. And also too, Kobe White is starting to get into it. As I talked about in our last show on Monday, I know he struggled in his first couple of games coming out of health and safety protocols, but it looks like he's finally started to turn around a little bit. Will he be used as a trading piece at the trade deadline? We'll worry about that later. But right now, I like the depth on this team, and they're playing so well. You forget that Alex Caruso's out. You
Yeah.
forget Lonzo Ball's out.
Yes.
So give Mark Eversley, the GM, and Arturas kind of show his credit. They saw the roster for what it was at the end of last year and said, hey, we need to change this roster up and down. And look what's happening right now.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it gets to a point where we won't have to use guys like Patrick Williams or Kobe White as a trade piece. I'm hope we'll get to that when the time comes. But yeah, I mean, the defense, the interior defense, like you said, I think that's somebody that they really, that's someone, that's the type of thing that's really concerning if there are concerns about this team right now. But I think it's all going to be about once they get, hopefully they'll get into the playoffs. We don't want to go too far ahead. We're not even halfway through the season yet. But you know what? Look, it's one. I'm keeping my expectations tempered. This team's not perfect. Actually, none of the teams are perfect if you think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, I like what I'm seeing right now. Hopefully, they can keep it up. That's just look. I take it one game at a time. I'm not thinking about they could make to the Eastern Conference Finals or they can make to the NBA. No. Let's slow down. We're not even halfway through the season yet. Let's just keep let's just keep everything kind of like even keeled and just play as we go. And as far as trading guys like Kobe White or Patrick Williams, we'll worry about that if that even comes to that. But we'll if and when the time comes.
The Bulls schedule looks like this for the rest of the week. Of course, tonight, as we mentioned, at 7 o'clock at the UC, the Bulls will host the Atlanta Hawks. On Friday, they'll travel to Indiana to face the Pacers for a special New Year's Eve game at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then, of course, on New Year's night, they'll travel to our nation's capital to face an injury-riddled Washington Wizards team at 6 p.m. So that's the Bulls schedule for the remainder of this week as we head into the calendar year of 2022. You listening to Second City Sports on the special pre-New Year's Eve edition, live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with us. We now talk about the NBA. Lakeena, a couple of scores to go over, key scores to go over from last night. It was the Los Angeles Lakers getting by the Houston Rockets by the score of 132-123. LeBron James finally got some help. And Malik Monk, who's returned from health and safety protocols, had a monstrous dunk. For those of you that haven't seen it, check it out on social media. And also, too, the Knicks get back on track, defeating the Minnesota Timberwolves 96-88. But it was the Denver Nuggets who won their second game in a row on their road trip. They defeated the Golden State Warriors 89-86. Steph Curry hit his 3,000th career three-pointer.
Yeah, and he's the first guy to do that, and but it wasn't enough. And Jokic had a key block late that that sealed the win for the Nuggets. And look, I mean, I think the Warriors are hoping whenever Klay Thompson comes back. I know they're a little they're still a little shorthanded. The Warriors are because I know Jordan Poole is out because of health protocols and such. And look, Steph did his thing. He only scored 23. They kind of struggled a little bit outside of that. I know Draymond Green is now in health protocol, so that's why they were kind of shorthanded last night. But look, the Nuggets did what they were supposed to, beating one of the top teams in the league. They're kind of near at nearly at 500 right now. So we'll see if they can keep it up. But as far as the Lakers, I mean, both LeBron and Westbrook had a triple double. That's just the third time that's happened with the Lakers, a pair of Lakers. I know that one did involve LeBron. I think it was AD, but the third one was we got all the way back to 1982 with Kareem and Magic. And look, I don't know what to think about the Lakers. They're tough to figure out.
Yeah.
I know that AD is going to be out for a few more weeks with the knee, so it's going to be very interesting to see. And they actually switched LeBron to the point to the 3 spot. maybe that they actually played their best game of the season. So maybe that's something that was missing. So we'll see if they can keep it up. But they needed this win. I know it's Houston, but Houston has actually been able to kind of stay with the Lakers. So we'll see if they can keep that up.
Yeah, and a couple of the teams that stood out to us over the last couple of days, the Utah Jazz without Donovan Mitchell, they got by San Antonio on Monday, 110-104. The Grizzlies got by the Suns, 114-113. Of course, as we told you guys on Monday, head coach Monty Williams of the Suns is out. He's on the health and safety protocol list. And the Brooklyn Nets, they sweep the LA portion of the road trip, beating the Clippers 124-108. The Clippers, hopefully they can stay around 500 until Paul George hopefully gets back healthy, because they did not look good against the Brooklyn Nets. And the Brooklyn Nets are shorthanded still. Thank goodness for them you have James Harden. But I saw something on social media last night, like, I don't know if you saw it, but it looks like Kyrie may make his debut January 5th or January 12th against Chicago, if I saw correctly. That would be something. And both those games are road games.
Yeah, and that's what it looks like. And I think he did get the vaccine, because of course, it's going to kick in here in Chicago that you have to be vaccinated, or at the very least show a positive, negative, I should say, COVID test in order to play. So we'll see what happens there. Now going into the schedule for the rest of this week, tonight, New York and Detroit. New York, that they've won a couple in a row. We'll see if they can keep it up against a pretty good Detroit team. Charlotte and Indiana, the Clippers, they still got to soldier on without Paul George. They start their East Coast road trip, their circus road trip, I should say, playing Boston, who are still going to be without Tatum because of health and safety protocols. Of course, Hawks and Bulls. And the first game of the NBA TV doubleheader, this should be a good one. You got the Lakers and the Grizzlies, John Morant and LeBron James. That should be a fun one. Of course, Lakers coming off that big win last night. I mean, going off a back-to-back, it's going to be a little bit tough, but we'll see what they do.
Yeah, key game for both teams. For Memphis, you eked out a tough road win against Phoenix on Monday, and the Lakers are coming off a back-to-back. So what gives? I'll tell you this: the Lakers team defense definitely will be tested tonight, and they seek revenge on Memphis, because they went there a couple weeks ago and they got their heads handed to them. So this is a revenge game for the Lakers.
Absolutely. Miami and San Antonio. Miami.
The rematch of 2014.
Funny. Miami, they've been on a roll lately. They're starting to kind of get guys back. So we'll see what they do against San Antonio. OKC and Phoenix. I'm sure Phoenix will not be in a very good mood after losing to Memphis a couple of days ago. So we'll see how they look against OKC. Utah and Portland. The second game of that NBA TV doubleheader, it will be Dallas and Sacramento.
And that's your schedule for tonight. Now going to tomorrow, pre-New Year's Eve, we have the first game of the NBA TV doubleheader. We'll have the Philadelphia 76ers paying a visit to Brooklyn to take on the Nets. At 6 o'clock Chicago time, we'll have the Bucks and the Magic wrapping up their brief 2-game series in Orlando. At the same time, we'll have the Cavaliers and the Washington Wizards. The Cavaliers, it looks like they're not going to quit anytime soon, Lakeena, as they continue to be the surprise team in the NBA this year. And the second game of that NBA TV doubleheader tomorrow night will feature the rematch between the Warriors and the Nuggets, this time from Denver.
Yeah, it's gonna be, and that's gonna be very interesting. Also, too, keep a lookout for Rookie Rubio's injury. Remember, if you saw, they gave her a couple of nights ago against the Pacers. He, went down with a knee injury, and it was non-contact. So no word yet on how serious that injury is. Because if he goes down, I mean, they're already out without Colin Sexton, and Cleveland's been able to kind of, they've kind of stayed afloat. I think they're right there in the number 5 seed right now. So if they lose Rubio, I mean, that's going to be a big loss for them. So we'll see what happens. The Friday's matchup, New Year's Eve, you got Philly and Boston in an early, New Year's Eve matchup. That's going to be at noon. Of course, Bulls and Pacers, as well as Dallas and San Antonio. That should be a fun one between those two. There's always is. Miami and Houston and Atlanta and Cleveland at 6:30. Those are your early games.
In your late games for New Year's Eve night, we'll see San Antonio and Memphis at 7 o'clock Chicago time. The Knicks at the OKC Thunder at 7 o'clock. Minnesota at Utah at 8 p.m. The late game, which can be seen on NBA TV on New Year's night will be Portland at the Lakers. That should be fun.
That should be a lot of fun. On New Year's Day, the first day of 2022, you got New Orleans and Milwaukee. That's the first of the NBA TV doubleheader. San Antonio and Detroit at 6. Chicago, of course, facing the injury-riddled Washington Wizards. Clippers, without Paul George, continue their East Coast trip, I should say, their circus trip against Brooklyn. Denver and Houston, and Golden State at Utah. That's the second game of that NBA TV doubleheader. Hopefully, maybe Donovan Mitchell might be back by then. We'll have to wait and see. Him and Steph, that would be a great matchup. He'd be able to play on Saturday.
And wrap it up the weekend schedule, January 2nd. That's on the Sunday. The Knicks of the Raptors will get it on from Canada at 2:30. The Magic and the Celtics at 5 o'clock. The first game on NBA TV on Sunday will be Indiana at Cleveland. That should be interesting. As we mentioned, the Cavaliers, one of the best surprising teams in the league. At 6 o'clock, we'll have Phoenix at Charlotte. Mavericks at the Thunder at 6 o'clock. And then wrapping up the action on Sunday night will be Minnesota at the Los Angeles Lakers. Of course, Minnesota last month went into now formerly known as Staples Center and whooped up on the Lakers. Yes. That was without LeBron James. LeBron James is still healthy and back now as like the Lakers will seek revenge against the T-Wolves.
And also to the remember they're without the T-Wolves are without Karl Anthony Towns, so we'll see. Maybe Lakers can get their revenge on them. Those are your NBA schedule for the rest of the year and into early 2022. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Sydney Brown. I'm Lakeena and McGee. Let's go to the college gridiron for a second, Sid. I mean, the bowl games. Look, we're at that point now where if they just play the bowl games, that's a win in of itself. I know UCLA, I know the Holiday Bowl, UCLA, they couldn't because a lot of their defensive guys, end up getting COVID or they're in safety protocol. So now apparently NC State still trying to find an opponent, which will probably be hard to do in such short notice. A nice win for Minnesota over West Virginia in the G-Rate Bowl last night. I actually watched a little bit of that game, the late game. So that was a lot of fun. But we're going to talk about, we'll probably talk about the rest of the bowl games later if we have time, but we're going to talk about Friday's playoff games between Michigan and Georgia and Cincinnati and Alabama. So what's your breakdown here, Sid?
It's going to come down to Cincinnati pressuring quarterback Bryce Young. I know Cincinnati, some people say they haven't played in a competitive conference. They do have a good team, which they do, but they're going against the big boys now. I want to see if they can pressure Bryce Young, keep him in the pocket, and force a couple of turnovers. They have to lean on their run game with Jerome Ford. He has over 1,200 yards for the year and 19 total touchdowns. But in my opinion, Cincinnati is going to have to run the football with some consistency and put pressure on Bryce Young, create a couple of turnovers, especially early, to give him a chance to stay in the game. On the flip side for Alabama in the wide receiver department, Jameson Williams will be the standout player for this one. For the year, he has 68 catches for over 1,400 yards and 15 total touchdowns. I want to see how Cincinnati's secondary can contain him. But my two keys for the game for Cincinnati: pressure Bryce Young, especially early, keep him in the pocket, and force some a couple early turnovers. And number two, you just have to run the ball. Keep that Alabama defense honest.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the key. I think you may see more of Pierce and Antonio Pierce, Antonio Pierce for Cincy, because Alec Pierce, I should say, for Cincy, and he was one of the top rushers in the American Conference. So you're going to see them run the ball a little bit more to keep Alabama's offense, Bryce Young and them off the field. So I think that's going to be the key. And also, like you said, the defense. I mean, force Young to kind of use his legs a little bit more and force him to throw and not have to depend on his legs. I think that's going to be the key for me in this game. And I'm not going to say Cincinnati's going to pull off the upset, but I think they feel like no one's really talking about them. So it's going to be very interesting to see what it entails there. Is this going to be at Jerry's World in the Cotton Bowl on Friday? So make sure you guys check that out. That'll, of course, be on ESPN. And we'll talk a little bit more about that if we have time. But the second semifinal, I'm going to give that attention right quick, will be Michigan against Georgia. Where do you see this one?
I think for Georgia, is going to come down to for them running the football and setting up the play action pass. Look out for their tight end Brock Bowers. He has 47 catches for 791 yards and 11 touchdowns so far this year. like I said, Georgia, they have to run the ball to sell the play action pass. And number two, can their defense get back on track? Because it got shredded against Alabama in the SEC title game. I want to see how their defenses, in particular their secondary, responds. Because let's be honest, here, Michigan doesn't really have a deep passing game. They don't. They can run the football with Hassan Haskins, and we saw that in their game against Ohio State, and we saw it again in their Big Ten title game win over Iowa. Michigan is known to dominate you up front, especially with their big offensive line. For Georgia on the defense, I talked about their secondary, but can their defensive line get pressure on McNamara and cause a couple turnovers?
Well, that's going to be the key, the defense versus Hassan Haskins. I mean, if you're Haskins and if you're Michigan, you probably want to run the ball as much as you can down their throats and, wear them out. So, and also too, McNamara, I mean, look, he tends to make some mistakes from time to time, but, if he can kind of use that and sort of try to make it sort of, I know they lost one of their top wide receivers, although Cornelius Johnson could be key there if they somehow slow down the running game. Now, as for the defense of Michigan, Aiden Hutchinson's leading the way there. Can they, put pressure on Stetson Bennett and just, like you said, kind of, keep him honest? I mean, this is probably going to be the best game out of, the two semifinal games. I feel like this is going to be the Capital One Orange Bowl. This will be in Miami. So, and I know that with everything, I know there are COVID concerns with Georgia. I know that, Georgia's one of the hot spots right now for COVID, but I know that the coaching staff has done a very good job. Kirby Smart's done a very good job of keeping everybody kind of at bay, keeping everyone honest. They didn't even go anywhere for Christmas. They just went straight to Miami. So to kind of keep that, sort of keep the spread, hopefully. And I know people were upset that, they're not. I mean, such a sense. None of the other three semifinal teams are. They're not letting us, give us access. Look, they're trying to save you guys. Okay, so I would say let's. There's COVID's going around, bowl games are being canceled left and right. We'll have to talk a little bit about that later, but it's just, come on, chill, guys.
Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as Second City Sports continue as we celebrate our last hour of 2021 with Christine Manika with our Week 13 picks coming up later on in the hour. But first, for you Sports Zone Chicago listeners and viewers, we have a very special guest to introduce to you guys. For those of you that been listening to our podcast, she's a frequent guest, but for those of you tuning in on Sports Zone Chicago, we'll introduce our very special guest to you along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sidney Brown. You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. Hall of Fame football coach and broadcasting icon John Madden has passed away at the age of 85. Madden was the head coach of the Oakland Raiders for 10 years. He led the franchise to a Super Bowl title following the 1976 season. He then moved into broadcasting where he covered 11 Super Bowls for all 4 major TV networks over 30 years. Bob Costas on the legacy that Madden leaves.
He affected everything. The way games were produced, the way they were directed, and the way other broadcasters, play-by-play men and analysts both, prepared. It was not standard procedure until John came along to have a scheduled meeting with the head coach and with maybe the quarterback and several other key players the day before the game. It was sort of just catch as catch can. And John said no.
For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
You need to shop Kohl's right now. I mean, they have so many deals. I got 60% off holiday decor, so I'm set for next year. Fleece for under $20 and 60% off bedding. Even better, I used the Kohl's cash I earned from my holiday shopping and got it all in less than an hour with free store pickup. Who's ready to ring in the savings? Select styles ends December 31st. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
So a friend told me about Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, and his exact words were, "It changed my life.
I used to spend a ridiculous amount of time trying to remove tomato sauce from inside our microwave and soap scum off the bathtub."
It's like seriously magic, and my secret weapon for cleaning the kitchen, bathroom, doors and walls, and even keeping my sneakers clean.
Mr. Clean Magic Eraser.
Greatest invention ever.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, the unicorn of cleaning.
Welcome back to this very special edition of Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. This is our last show for 2021 in our last hour as we celebrate you guys into the new year. Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
Follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. And make sure if you have a question or comment for us during our last hour of the show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section, and Lakeena will get them up and running for you. But if you decide to troll or do something stupid, Lakeena will give you the beer lane beer boot.
Bye.
I love saying that. We have a treat for you guys. That's been supporting us on Sports Zone Chicago since we started our live shows again back in August, and we'll give our thank yous and things along that line toward the end of the show. But we had our very special guest who's about to join us now. We had her on doing our podcast days, especially last year during the pandemic. Now she's joined us for the first time since we have gone back to doing live shows. She's a hometown girl, and most importantly, she's my future ex-wife. She's the co-host of the House of Hockey podcast, along with Breezy, and she's a hockey fanatic, and she's a very good friend of ours, the lovely and very talented Miss Rachel Kopczyk. Rachel, welcome to our show. Welcome back to our show, rather.
Thank you for having me, guys. I love it. I love the reaction. Keena is always like, I roll when you say I'm your future ex-wife, but I love it. I think it's hilarious.
Read this shirt, you know why.
Oh, brother.
So funny. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I'm so glad to be here and chatting with you on this new platform. This is very exciting.
Yes, of course, we're going to have you on for the entire hour. Of course, our good friend Christine Manika, who we have on for NFL Picks, she'll join us later on this hour. But where can people find you on social media before we get into it?
So the place I'm most active is, of course, Instagram. I don't know how to do the Twitter quite right, so I stick to what I know. And you can follow me at The Hockey Lady. And also the podcast I co-host is at the House of Hockey podcast.
You're not on TikTok, are you?
No.
Good. Because those that's I tell people all the time, that's for the kids. They do stupid stuff, say stupid things, and we're grown folks around here. We can have our own fun, but leave that silly stuff to the kids. I
do not have the time or the patience or the energy for any of that.
Right.
I don't. I like enough actual long form content for clients and for myself that the last thing I want to do is learn some dance on TikTok and then like try to record it. And no, it's not for me. It's not for me.
All right, let's get into it. Ray. The NHL returned with to the ice last night with 3 games, but our Chicago Blackhawks will dive more deep into them later. Their next game is Saturday at Nashville as of right now. But I've been worried about you. That's why we brought you on here today. Almost for, of course, the NHL usually takes their Christmas break for 2 or 3 days anyway. So people were freaking the what. I was like, people, do your research. They always take a break around this time.
Yes, they do.
But anyway, for almost a week and a half, we haven't seen any hockey on television or listening to it on radio or apps or things like that. How you been holding up until last night?
I mean, not well. I think I've watched every single Christmas movie that's ever been done, including the ones on the Hallmark Channel. So I'm very happy to have some hockey back. Plus the World Juniors tournament is going on as well. And so that is very exciting to be watching and just, holding our breath that there isn't more delays in the season with COVID and pauses. And, we got a bunch of bad news for Christmas as hockey fans where, the NHL players are not going to the Olympics. Games postponed every day. They're announcing more postponements of games. Taxi squads are being reenacted again. there's just a lot happening. And, at least we've got the outdoor classic game coming on New Year's Day. So that's the Winter Classic, rather. So that's exciting. So something to look forward there. Even though it's not my Blackhawks, it's still quite the fun spectacle what they do with the Winter Classic.
Yeah, tell people what the taxi squad is. So I think most people I think some folks who are NHL fans probably don't know what the heck it is. So tell folks a little bit what the taxi squad is, because it's sort of like similar to what the NBA is doing, with what was it, extra players and such. So it's kind of very similar to that.
Yeah, they're basically just allowed to carry a group of extra guys. I think it's up to six players, I think, that they are allowed to have full access to, that doesn't impede on the salary cap kind of situation, is really what it is, in case of COVID and lots of players being sent to protocol. And it just makes that sort of technical side of things easier, is really what it is.
You brought up earlier, Rachel, about the Olympics. I was really looking forward to it for people who watch hockey casually, in particular in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Is, in my opinion, the best playoffs atmosphere on the planet. I'm not just saying that to blow smoke, even though I'm a basketball guy first. But Connor McDavid.
That's why we would get divorced.
Don't start that again.
Oh Lord. Okay.
Anyway, but Brad Marchand of the Boston Bruins and Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers came out in the last couple of days, basically let their words fly out of their mouth, and rightfully so, calling the NHL hypocrites. Of course, the NHL players are not playing the Olympics. We almost had the situation the last go around 4 years ago in the Olympics. NHL players, if they weren't allowed to go, maybe we would worry about some of the big name stars defected from their current NHL teams to go play in the Olympics. Anyway, that element I still think is hanging out right now. So what are your thoughts about the NHL not participating in these Winter Olympics? Or do you think it'll be pushed back a year?
Well, I really do think it's disappointing, to echo what Connor McDavid had said. It sucks. It's, everybody was looking forward to it. The league and the Players Association have worked really hard to come to terms to allow the NHL players to participate in the Olympics after several years of Winter Olympics being missed by NHL players. And it's a little disappointing, but at the end of the day, the league is the most important thing. I mean, the league has been taking a hit since the COVID seasons financially. There's all this kind of stuff going on. So I understand the importance of needing the games to be played in the league and makeup games and all these things from COVID that have happened, and to keep fans in the seats, because so much of the league is dependent upon butts in seats, as they like to say. And it's not like Major League Baseball or the NFL, where if there aren't people in the seats, it doesn't matter. They're making so much other money from television rights and all these other kinds of deals that the NHL just doesn't have. So I understand the league's decision, but also the players' safety and sending everybody over. Like this variant is crazy contagious, and the players, we don't want our players or anybody getting seriously sick, let alone being stuck in a foreign country and having not all of the things that you would normally want to care for you if something were to happen. But I understand the frustration. I'm not totally sure I understand. It was Brad Marchand who sent that message out. I read his message like 4 different times. And I was like, I don't understand. I don't understand. I know there's escrow, and I know that the players are supporting the league and all of those kinds of things. I understand that bit of it, but I wasn't entirely sure what the issue was there. So I can't comment on that. So if any of you could explain it to me, please send me like an essay on it, because what he wrote did not make any sense to me. I really I read it and I was like, okay, I'm going to read this real slow, like I'm taking the SATs again and reading comprehension, and I'm going to figure this out. And I couldn't figure out what he was trying to say. But I mean, he's trying to do it in a small amount of characters, I guess. So, that's not to shade Brad Marchand. I'm sure whatever he's trying to say is valid. But yeah, that's where we're at. But it's also an exciting time for players who wouldn't have the opportunity to participate in the Olympics to be on the world's like biggest stage. So because of the NHL players not being allowed to go, the AHL, which is a minor league in hockey, those players are actually allowed to go and participate, as well as some of the European teams and one other league that is just escaping me right now. But it'll be interesting to see some of these other stars that we wouldn't otherwise care about or know about that are in these other leagues come up and see what they can do.
Well, looking at some of the U.S. and the World Juniors, they had to forfeit their last game was because of COVID and because of quarantine. I'm wondering that the rest of the season. I mean, maybe once it gets warmer, things won't be as bad. But also, to Canada, they've already had to, excuse me, cut. They're not even playing in Canada right now. All the Canadian teams have to play here in the States. What do you think? Because how do you think your teams are gonna react to, especially the Canadian teams? I mean, they probably have to basically stay here because they're not allowed to play in Canada right now. And even when they do, I'm sure the spectators will be cut 50%. They were already doing that before they shut everything down. So how do you think the teams are gonna with especially the Canadian teams with all this stuff going on and not told that they're not able to go back to their country, need to even rest and such. What do you think? What's your thoughts on this?
Gosh, I mean, the whole thing is just uncharted territory for everybody involved. I don't really think I have the solution. I don't think I can advise them on what to do. I just know the importance for all of the World Juniors, which is the IIHF, the NHL, all of these organizations, the importance of continuing to play from a financial perspective is really important. And I get that, but there's also a line of when do we start caring more about our players and the fans if things start to get too much. But I think it's a hard decision. Like, how do you decide, okay, now no fans are allowed, but then you've already got all these fans who've traveled to this country and they want to see their kids play or their friends or whatever it is. Like, for example, in the World Juniors tournament, I mean, they're at 50% capacity at that tournament, and the players all had to enter a quarantine and things like that. There were preventative measures put in place, but still, like, we're seeing breakthrough cases and all kinds of things like that. But I think everybody's just trying to do their best. And, you don't want to see anybody stuck in another country. You don't want to see anybody really ill. And I think everybody's really just trying to do the best that they can.
Friend of this show, Chicago's very own Rachel Kopczyk, co-host of the House of Hockey podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network, is joining us here on Second City Sports on this very special edition, pre-New Year's Eve edition. We're live and in living color along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. Ray, I enjoy your podcast with your co-host Breezy. I was listening to a few episodes yesterday to catch up. We want our listeners to catch it. It is very good. But you had on one very interesting guest a couple of weeks ago, Miss Vermont, get into coaching. Tell us just a little bit about that.
I know, right? It was like, why are we? I sent this to Breezy. I'm like, Breezy, we got to interview Miss Vermont USA. Like, crickets, what? We're a hockey podcast. What the hell does she have to do with hockey? Well, she's actually a hockey coach and a hockey player. She played through her high school and college years. She played at the collegiate level very competitively. As we know, for women's hockey, there really aren't very many options beyond college to pursue on a professional, like, main scale. There's, a lot going on that side of the sport that I won't get into, but it'll set me off but anyway, I digress. She's incredible. Joanna, she won Miss Vermont USA 2021. And then that meant she got to compete on the national stage. And she is a huge advocate of hockey just in general. And she really used, as corny as it may sound, she used her platform, not just to promote world peace, but to promote hockey and inclusivity for all. And she's a really great coach. And she had a lot to say about helping grow the women's side of hockey and how to get women into positions of coaching. And, we've seen a lot more female referees in the minor leagues of the NHL system. That's new this year, but we haven't seen, a woman behind the bench, and it's going to be a while. And her basic answer to that, like, how do we fix that? How do we bring more women into leadership roles in hockey and things like that, is she was like, we need our allies, which are men. So men are not really the problem unless they're not taking the hand of a woman and bringing her up and saying, I want to mentor you and I want to show you how to become a head coach or how to do XYZ that you're trying to pursue. So it's about working together to make that happen. And she's incredible. I mean, gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous, smart. We even threw some questions at her at the end to prepare her, because we talked to her right before prepare her. Like Breezy and I are going to prepare her for the world stage of the Miss USA competition. But we had a little fun with her, throwing some hard hitting questions at her like they do during the competition. And she went on stage too they do, I guess, like a costume portion of the pageant that's not televised, and she dressed up in full hockey gear, pads, stick, skates, and walked a stage, and really did a lot for the sport. And we're big fans of Joanna.
Yeah, Joanna Nagel, that's her name. And I saw her story on social media. And I thought, wow, this is a really fascinating young lady, and hopefully she can help kind of bring attention to more women's hockey, because like you said, I mean, there's not a lot of, in the professional side, at least not here in the States. I know back over in Europe, I know there are a lot more opportunities, but again, that's a whole another conversation. Let's go on the ice for a second. For what we've seen, which team has impressed you so far in this young NHL season?
Well, it's been, I think, pretty typical of how it used to be when we had the full season before all these weird COVID seasons, where, some teams come out real hot out of the gate and you're like, oh, they're going to take it, they're going to go. But it's a long season, and the tables have flipped around a little bit here before we had our Christmas break. And some teams that have been really making their way back up right now are the Anaheim Ducks, which people are like, wait, what? And can they hold on to that? Can they carry that through? To be determined. Zegras is on there. He was playing in the World Junior Championship this time last year, I believe. He is freaking incredible. He's also absolutely just a hilarious kind of surfer dude guy with a lighthearted sense of humor. If you follow the Ducks on social media, you can see some fun moments with him. But that's exciting to see where that could go. The Vegas Golden Knights have rebounded from a really tough start to their season as well. And then the Pittsburgh Penguins could make a nice return to closer to the top of the division there, if they get some of their key players back who have been injured. And there's some other exciting things with the Penguins. Sidney Crosby is, let me see, I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget. There was too many stats. He needs 10 more goals to reach 500 for his NHL career. So that could be exciting to see come, in the next couple of weeks. We could see that happen for him. Unfortunately, our Chicago Blackhawks are having a really hard time right now.
Well, they've been playing better as of late, though.
They're playing better.
Finally got Colleton out of there.
Yeah,
better. I was very happy to see Colleton go. I do think with everything that went down with the upper management from the lawsuit, I do think a coaching shift and just everything needed to change, and it did bring in some fresh energy to the guys. And I do like seeing how well DeBrincat is playing with Kane, and he's really hit his stride there, I think. And we're not gonna make the playoffs, but as long as we continue to play a little bit better, and I just try to enjoy Kane and Tays on the ice, because I don't think it will be much longer that they'll be wearing the Blackhawks uniform. So that's what I got with that. I mean, We obviously can talk about the Lightning and the Panthers and the Maple Leafs. They're all leading the way. The Detroit Red Wings are not to be discounted. Yes, I know, shocking. As well as
not the dead Wings.
I know, everybody. Detroit sucks. Detroit sucks. This is a Chicago podcast. I know. But they have had a pretty stellar start to the season. They're a team to keep an eye on. Maybe not, they might be wild card contenders this year, but there's a team to keep an eye on in the future. In the Metropolitan, we've got the Carolina Hurricanes leading the way with the Capitals and the Rangers, who have had a phenomenal start to the season and are a fun team to watch. They made a lot of changes in the off season, bringing in some muscle with Ryan Reeves and really figuring out their flow. They've got a new coaching staff as well. So those are all good things. Over in the Central, where we play the Chicago Blackhawks, the Minnesota Wild have been leading the Central Division for weeks.
Yes.
And nobody talks about them. Nobody does features on them. Nobody talks about them. And it's like, hello. I mean, they're playing so well. And just because they don't have a lot of those big names, and for whatever reason, NHL hockey, obviously in Minnesota, is not nearly as popular as the collegiate level of hockey there. And so many people there actually play hockey that they aren't like trying to rush and go watch the NHL games from what I've talked to from people who live in Minnesota and play. So that's exciting. The Predators are in second, followed by the Blues and the Avs. You can't count out the Avs, as much as I disagree with the prediction at the beginning of the season that the Avs are predicted to be the winners of the Stanley Cup this year. I don't think
could come playoff time every year, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's not going to happen with the Avs this year. But that's a fun division to keep an eye on. And then, of course, like I said, in the Pacific, the Golden Knights and the Ducks are tied for first, which is crazy. And the Calgary Flames are also playing really, really well. Unfortunately, cut me off at any point. I'll just go through every single team if you don't. So
we let you go, Rachel.
No, you gotta rein me in here. The last team I will mention is the Seattle Kraken, the brand new team of the new franchise in the league. They are not doing well. They're in the bottom of the Pacific. They have not come out of the gates like the Golden Knights did when they entered the league. Again, that was a one-off. That was magic, chemistry, Vegas luck, if you will, that had sent them to that great place to go to the Stanley Cup final in their inaugural season, which is just unheard of. And Golden Knights fans are very lucky to have had that experience. But I think the Kraken fan base still care and are supportive of the team, but we'll see what happens there.
And there's your hockey talk for today on Second City Sports. We're joined by a good friend, Chicago's very own Miss Rachel Kopczyk, co-host of the House of Hockey podcast, right here on the special New Year's pre-Eve edition of Second City Sports, live and in living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Ray, you brought up the Seattle Kraken. I want to transition over to the hockey coverage. Of course, this is the first year of I forgot how many years for NHL on ESPN and in Turner Sports. I bring up the Seattle Kraken because their home opener was switched to ESPN Plus. Not many people got a chance to see it. I was one of the fortunate.
I was so angry. I was angry about that because I wanted to see that. I really wanted to see that.
Luckily, I got a chance to peep in on it, but a whole lot of people couldn't see, especially in Seattle. I know they were playing Vancouver, so it was live in Canada on Hockey Night in Canada. Of course, our Blackhawks had a couple of games switched over to ESPN Plus. What do you think about the coverage on ESPN and Turner so far this year?
I am obsessed with the TNT broadcast team. Obsessed. It is the funniest, best coverage of hockey that we have needed for so long as hockey fans, with Biz, who, if you don't know, is on Spit and Chicklets podcast, which is like the hockey podcast. And he's absolutely hilarious and brings the levity and the humor and isn't afraid to make fun of himself and screws stuff up all the time. I'm not allowed to swear anymore. I'm sorry. He screws stuff up all the time. See, I'm just channeling my inner Biz. Sorry, everybody.
Yes.
But that, and then they've had Gretzky on the panel and a bunch of other like legendary. Henrik Lundqvist has been on there. I mean, just the fun and banter and things that they are doing is what we need to bridge the gap between the generations of hockey fans. So I'm very happy with that. You know, there's still a lot of familiar voices being broadcast as far as across the ESPN and TNT and TBS and all of that. So people calling the games, there's a lot of familiar voices and legendary guys who've been doing this for a really long time. So I'm really happy with it. Yes, I wish there was like a place that I could go that would tell me where to watch all the games instead of having to like check every app, and like even the ESPN app, all of it just says ESPN Plus because they're not going to want to promote TNT and TBS. And I'm like, I just need to know what game is on tonight and if I can watch it, you know, but I'm sure there's something out there and you all are just screaming at me listening, going, how does she not know about such and such or whatever it is? But I just, you know, I do what I can. I watch as many games as possible. Not always the Blackhawks. Obviously, this year is pretty challenging anyway. So to keep my blood pressure down, I try not to watch all of those games right now. But I do catch them, you know, pretty often.
Well, yeah. Well, look, we'll let you slide with the Biz talk because you know that's what he does. I know he's lets him a swear word or two. So it's
sorry, guys. Sorry. I hope you don't get fined by the FCC. Do they even do that anymore? Is that what the phone was ringing, Keena?
No,
we heard.
We're good. Yeah.
No, we're good. That was just giving the thumbs up. You know, it's okay if she lets him word submit. It's fine. But you know, one last one for me on the hockey front. You know, Alex Ovechkin. I mean, he's near the top. You know, 3 or 4. I think it's like the top 10 of some of the others. Now there are rumors that he might retire after this season. So,
no, Ovechkin.
Yeah, well, that's the rumor. I mean, I know like the last couple of years, I think, maybe the next 2 years, I think, he just had another kid and, everything else, but he's still playing at a very high level. So do you think he has a chance to win the Hart Trophy, which is, for MVP for the NHL, for those who are wondering?
I don't think he'll win the Hart Trophy. I think that will probably either go to Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl probably, but Ovechkin is not retiring. I can tell you this much. That man will play until he breaks the NHL goals record held by Wayne Gretzky.
Yes.
He's not retiring. He's got plenty of juice left. I mean, if you watch him play, he just stands straight up a good 60% of the time until the puck is sent to him and then he gets into position. He's learned how to maintain his energy and all of that. I mean, the guy is unbelievable. He's only 15 goals away from moving past Jaromir Jagr into the 3rd all-time NHL goals scored. So, I mean, he could I don't know. I don't think he could break Gordie Howe, who's got an 801. Ovechkin has 752 right now. So I think he needs at least a couple more seasons, and he can do it. If he stays healthy like he is, he's good. He's not retiring.
Are
you kidding?
Well, he's like 2 years, like maybe 2 years from now, he's going to retire. You know how social media is. Someone started he's at the end of the year, but yeah.
No, he's going to play as long as he can. And I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to try to surpass Gretzky by like a significant amount of goals, just so that he could, have it. I mean, the guy loves competition.
Definitely.
All right. Rachel Kopczyk of the House of Hockey podcast. Stay right there because we had to take our break because when we come back, it'll be the last half hour of the show, last half hour for us for the year 2021. We'll be joined by our good friend Christine Manika as she gives us her Week 17 NFL picks, and we'll have a whole lot more fun, talk about a whole lot of stuff. You know how we do it around here. This is a special edition of Second City Sports, live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. We'll be right back.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. Hall of Fame football coach and broadcasting icon John Madden has passed away at the age of 85. Madden was the head coach of the Oakland Raiders for 10 years. He led the franchise to a Super Bowl title following the 1976 season. He then moved into broadcasting, where he covered 11 Super Bowls for all 4 major TV networks over 30 years. Bob Costas on the legacy that Madden leaves.
He affected everything. The way games were produced, the way they were directed, and the way other broadcasters, play-by-play men and analysts both, prepared. It was not standard procedure until John came along to have a scheduled meeting with the head coach and with maybe the quarterback and several other key players the day before the game. It was sort of just catch as catch can. And John said no.
For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on Sports Zone Chicago.
You need to shop Kohl's right now. I mean, they have so many deals. I got 60% off holiday decor, so I'm set for next year. Fleece for under $20 and 60% off bedding. Even better, I used the Kohl's cash I earned from my holiday shopping and got it all in less than an hour with free store pickup. Who's ready to ring in the savings? Select styles ends December 31st. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
So a friend told me about Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, and his exact words were, "It changed my life."
I used to spend a ridiculous amount of time trying to remove tomato sauce from inside our microwave and soap scum off the bathtub.
It's like seriously magic, and my secret weapon for cleaning the kitchen, bathroom, doors and walls, and even keeping my sneakers clean.
Mr. Clean Magic Eraser.
Greatest invention ever.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, the unicorn of cleaning.
Welcome back to our last segment of the show for today, and our last segment for the year 2021 is you're listening to Second City Sports on the pre-New Year's Eve edition, live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. We're joined by also the House of Hockey podcast, and now we're joined by another hometown favorite. She's our pick'em guru for pro football as she joins us to do her Week 17 NFL picks. Our homegirl, Christine, the Queen Manika from KXRB Radio. Christine, good day to you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I want to call myself the guru because what was it? A few weeks ago, it was bad. Like my picks were bad.
Look, you've had a nice little bounce back. Rachel, this is Christine. Christine, this is Rachel.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, we want to kind of, and she's a big hockey. She hosts her own popular hockey podcast, Christine. So, if you ever need like a hockey, anything hockey, Rachel is your girl. So we wanted to get a chance for you guys to meet before we get into some business here with the NFL picks.
Well, nice to meet you.
You too. Yeah, I was going to go to a Blackhawk game when I was back home, and it didn't happen. Thanks, COVID. So yeah, right? I was a little upset about that.
I know. It's tough everywhere with all the pro sports, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's getting a lot of, I mean, what are you going to do at this point? I think people are just finally learning to adapt to everything COVID and whatnot. So let's just hope this kind of blows over again.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, absolutely. Now, Sid, you're still leading our little pickle here. You had 12. Chris, you actually had a pretty good week too. You had 11, and I had 11 too. But you're still ahead of me, Christine, and Sid's still at the top. So,
that's always.
Oh, no. All right, before.
Here comes the hate, Rachel.
All right. Well, Rachel, too, you can chime. I don't know how much NFL you watch outside the NHL, Rachel, but you can chime in here too.
I watch this much NFL. So football, what? I don't know what that is. I don't watch any football, you guys. So I don't know how much I can add to this conversation other than Aaron Rodgers, something is happening to his face and he looks I don't know what is happening, but he's like aging way faster than Tom Brady ever has. And he's freaking me out. But that's all I got for you.
Oh, perfect segue to the picks, Lakeena.
I know, right? Look, keep that up. Be yourself, Rachel. That's all we ask for.
Oh, good.
With this.
I'll just keep talking about what NFL players look like because that's all I can offer.
Go with that. See, look, that's your niche. Go with NFL. Go with that. First up, we got in the NFC East. We got the Eagles and Washington. Eagles are 8-7. They're right at the edge of the playoff, the 7th seed of the playoffs. In the NFC, they got all types of playoff scenarios. I'm not going to go through all of them because you need like basically a cheat sheet or something. Yes. But basically, they got to keep winning to get into the playoffs. Sid, you start this one.
What's the first game you said? Eagles and Giants?
No, Washington.
What? Washington. Sorry. All right, Christine, settle down. Anyway, because I'm trying to get my cheat sheet together. Philadelphia, impressive win against those bad, ugly-ass New York Giants, a team last week. And, of course, Washington, they got the butts handed to them by Dallas. I think Philadelphia has enough to keep up again, so I'm going with the Eagles.
Boy, is there a mercy rule in football? I forgot if they had one or not because that was, I feel so bad for the Washington football team just because they have been kind of riding a high for a little bit. And that game against Dallas just kind of knocked them down God knows how many pegs. So I feel bad, but I don't think they're going to have it in them to beat the Eagles, especially when they do have that playoff chance in their back pocket, so to speak. So I'm going to go with Philadelphia for this one.
Philadelphia is favored by 2.5 on the road.
Oh, then Vegas knows something. Rachel, you got anything to say about this one?
I could never pick the Eagles just because. I know some fans that I'm no longer friends with, so I would never be able to choose them in my right mind.
Okay. Well, on that note, I'll pick the Eagles. I'm picking the Eagles just because I think they have a better shot at getting into the playoffs here. I got to think with my head. A pretty good one here, I guess. The Ravens as they host the Rams, they try to kind of keep themselves afloat. It looks like Lamar Jackson has been limited at practice. Aaron Donald's going to be coming after either him or Tyler Huntley. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm going to pick the Rams as the Ravens free fall, I should say, continues.
I know that the Rams clinched a playoff spot last week, but against Minnesota, but I don't think it's going to matter who's playing quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. The Rams are good on the road. It's another early game, a West Coast team traveling to the East Coast. I don't think that's going to matter. It's going to be the Rams for this one. Seeding is still on the line for them.
Yep.
Yeah, again, short and sweet. Got to go with the Rams. They're having a great season this year. No matter who's at quarterback, like you said, Sid, it's not going to matter. Matthew Stafford, he's been known to win against really bad teams and really struggling teams. So it's got to be with the Rams.
The Rams are favored by 2.5.
That's it? Wow.
Yep.
I guess Vegas knows something. Rachel, you got anything to add?
I like their colors.
That's what my grandma said. No, I have a quick story. It was the one time that the Rams were playing Dallas for Thanksgiving, and we were watching the screen, and she's like, I like the color combinations. I'm like, what did you just say, Frida? Like, what are you talking about? And she was talking about the Rams. So, yeah.
You could just call me Frida from now on, Christine. That'll be just fine. Listen, I'm going to pick these teams like I pick the ponies when I go to the racetrack. I just pick it by color or name or just whatever the hell I feel like,
Yeah, you have to go to another racetrack, Rachel, because, the Bears going to take over Arlington. Well, that's
don't start with, I don't want to hear about that. Don't upset the apple cart, okay? I'm in a good mood today.
Okay.
Yeah,
my bad.
We'll get to the Bears in a little bit here, unfortunately. Bucks and Jets. Keep it short and sweet, folks. Sid, you start.
Tampa Bay is favored by 11. Looks like head coach Bruce Arians for the Buccaneers will miss this game because he's in health and safety protocols. But I'm going with the Buccaneers. You saw what they did at Carolina, what they did to the Panthers at Carolina last week. I expect them to do that to the Jets this time in the Big Apple. I'm gonna go with the Bucs.
Yep, no contest. Got to go with the Bucks. I will say this: Antonio Brown, what a sassy guy! I don't know if you heard about. I mean, I always knew that, but I don't know if you watched that interview when I forget her name. I think it was Jessica Lane. I think that was
Jenna Lane from ESPN.
Yeah, she asked, "Hey, like, how does it feel to have your head coach standing by your side?" And he just like shoved it off right away. I'm like, all right, like that's actually a really good question. She wasn't asking specifically what happened. She just wanted to, say, hey, how does it feel to have even the head coach standing by you? And I'm happy that the other reporters backed her up on that question because I'm like, oh my God, like, what do you expect when you get in an interview, in that situation? So anyway, that's that. That's all I got to say.
I'm picking the Jets because I'm in love with Zach Wilson after what he did on Christmas.
I saw that.
Yes,
he's so cute too. Where's he been hiding? Oh, he's been hiding on the New York Jets. That's where he's been hiding. So I adore him. And he did like the sweetest thing for this woman who was working at a diner. If you haven't seen it on social, just look it up. It's on the Jets feed. And I mean, yeah, we're going there. Says Frida.
Says Frida.
And Ray says she can't pick football games. Nonsense.
See, there you go. Where you're finding
money, right? I'm not putting real money on the line, right?
Yeah,
nobody at home is betting real money, right? No.
Yeah, we don't know nothing about that.
Yeah, it's all for fun. It's all for fun. That's what we're doing here for fun. This should be a fun one here. Speaking of, we got the Dolphins and the Titans. Christine, you start this one.
This is the one that I circled because Miami has had a 7-win game streak now. And, they weren't doing so great at the beginning. They're riding this high now. They do not favor well in colder weather. And I think I saw that it's going to be at least under 50 degrees in Tennessee by the time that kickoff happens. So I don't know. It's going to be a close one. I think just because it's the home field, I'm going with Tennessee, even though I wouldn't be surprised if Miami pulls out the win.
I'm going with Tennessee as well. They're favored by 3.5. I saw what the Dolphins did to a rookie quarterback, Ian Brook.
Poor Notre Dame guy.
Yeah. Dude, we saw what happened on Monday night.
Yeah.
I know the Titans are a sketchy team offensively. Lakeena, I think you'll be proud. This would be pre-1980s football. It's going to be an ugly, close game, 17-16, 13-10, something like that. And watch both those teams will score over 30 points. But with that being said, I'm going with the Titans.
Yeah, it might be like the 30s because I feel like the Dolphins. I know they're traveling. It's for the short week. I think they're staying up north, I believe, so that way they don't have to go all the way back down to Miami. They're going to go straight to Nashville. But yeah, I think the Miami will keep it close for a while. But I think the Titans still got a lot to play for. They have an outside shot at the number 1 seed in the AFC, so I'm picking the Titans. Rachel, you got anything to add here?
Who's the quarterback of the Dolphins these days?
Tua, I think.
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama.
Oh, cute guy with the long hair. He's got long blonde hair, right?
No,
that's Trevor Lawrence. That's from Jacksonville.
That's the
that one. I want that team.
Oh, well, you know what? On that note, though, they actually are up next. The Jaguars actually do play the Patriots in New England. So I'm going to pick New England. I feel like, they still got a shot. The Jags, James Robinson's done for the year. I don't know what to, Trevor Lawrence, they might make a mincemeat out of your guy here, Rachel. So I'm picking the Patriots in the blowouts. Sorry.
I'll keep mine short and sweet, Patriots. That's just it.
Yeah, as I said on our show last Wednesday, Buffalo's going to tear that butt up in New England. They did just that. New England, as Lakeena said, they're in the foul mood. They're going to take it out on Jacksonville. Sorry, Rachel. So Trevor Lawrence meet the Patriots defense. So I'm going with New England.
Saying hello. All right. Should be an intriguing one here in the AFC. You got the Las Vegas Raiders and the Indianapolis Colts. Sid, you start this one for us.
My cheat sheet decides to go blank. Indianapolis is favored by 7.5. Okay, so Indianapolis has won 8 out of their last 10 games. Of course, the Raiders beat a bad Broncos team at home last week. The Raiders still have a slight outside chance of making it to the playoffs. Because they're a hot team and they're at home, I'm going with the Colts. Christine, to your liking of the quarterback with his bad ankles and all. They're going to run that ball with Jonathan Taylor going up and down that Lucas Oil Stadium field. So I'm going with the Colts.
See, I would have said the Colts, and I don't know what Vegas is talking about because now that Wentz is on the COVID-19 list, you have just amount of other players that are on the COVID-19 list too for the Colts. I don't think they're going to do what we originally thought that they were going to do with the Raiders. They both, they're both great teams. This is another one that I circled just because it could go either way. It will be close, but I think just because the Raiders have a stronger team in regards to players that aren't on the COVID list, I'm going with the Raiders.
Which wouldn't surprise me. I feel like there's an outside shot. I know they're traveling cross country again, having to play a noon game Central Time. But I think Jonathan Taylor will probably be the guy. He might rush for like maybe 150 or something. It's going to be close, but I think the Colts pull away late. You guys did add
go Colts.
All right. See, there you go. Yes,
there it is.
You can't do it. Who says you don't know football, Rachel? Come on now. You know a little something. Should be another good one.
I know a little bit.
Yeah. So, in the AFC, another good one here. You got the Chiefs and the Bengals. Look, it looks like the Chiefs are starting to come back from protocol. I saw a tweet from Andy Reid saying that it looks like everyone's going to be all cleared. The Bengals, come on now, you guys want to be with the big boys. I could put the Bengals, but no, I'm going to pick the Chiefs. It pains me, but I'm going to pick the Chiefs, and they'll probably end up with the number 1 seed in the AFC again. Yay.
I'm going with the Chiefs as well. They're favored by 4 as a road favorite.
All right, this is what I'm saying. This could be a good preview for the AFC Championship. Really, it could. And if the Bengals win this with the title, they'll also get their first playoff spot since 2015. And you know me, I've been rooting for the Bengals this entire season just because they came out of nowhere. I think Joe Burrow is starting to look like the big franchise quarterback for this team. So with that being said, I'm going to stick to my color of orange and keep on saying, let's go Bengals.
You got anything to say, Rachel?
Yes, I'm shocked to hear that the Bengals are anywhere even good. So that's how out of it I am.
It's like they are.
I believe it. And I do know Joe Burrow, not personally, obviously, but I'll go with Bengals. I think, go there.
Okay.
Go Ohio.
There we
go.
All
right. Sounds good. Okay. Falcons and Bills here. I want to pick the Bills. It's going to be cold. I want to pick the Bills. The Bills still have a shot at trying to get that 1 seed, maybe. And I think they want to kind of keep it up to get that number 2 seed at the very least. There is no bye anymore, but I'm gonna pick the Bills. I think Josh Allen's gonna have a big game, and they might score. I don't want to say they might score 30 or 35 in Atlanta. They might, but I'm picking the Bills, keeping it short and sweet.
Yeah, this is the time of year it gets cold in Buffalo. I don't know if there's going to be any snow or not, but it doesn't matter. Atlanta is terrible. Buffalo, they had a big win last week at New England. This could be a letdown, but I don't see it. I'm going with the Bills, and they're looking for that AFC East Division title.
The heck with it. I'm picking Atlanta. I'm kidding. I'm picking the Bills.
Watch Atlanta win just because you said that.
I know.
Yeah, honestly, right? You put that out there. Yeah. Rachel?
I'm going with the Bills because I support all Buffalo sports fans. Their hockey team has been in shambles for years, and I just feel for the fans there. So if the Bills can win and bring some joy to the great people of Buffalo, I'm here for them.
All right. Texans. In the first of the 3:00 games, you got Texans and 49ers. It looks like Trey Lance might get the start because Jimmy G has a fracture in his thumb, so it looks like we may get Trey Lance to start for the 49ers. I know the Texans are coming off that upset, but I think the 49ers, they still have an outside shot to get into the playoffs. I think Trey Lance will start that ball rolling, so I'm going to pick the 49ers.
I'm taking the 49ers as well. Trey Lance, yay! Even though San Francisco has been playing well the last few weeks, their defense is strong. The running game is strong. I know San Francisco is a home favorite. They're a 15-point favorite. I'm not sure if they're going to win by that much, but we pick hashtag straight up winners on the show, so I'm going with the 49ers.
Yeah, 49ers too. Gosh, that injury that Jimmy G has sounds nasty. Whatever it's going on.
Rachel?
I'm going with the 49ers because Jimmy G will be my second husband after I divorce Sid. So
oh gosh, Jimmy, what if I told you to? Jimmy G is just, oh my gosh. Tom Brady wanted him gone.
Right.
It's the smile. He's got like a twinkle in his eye.
He is very handsome.
I don't know what.
Yeah, he is a very handsome man. Okay. Where do we go from? Oh, okay. AFC West, you got the Broncos and the Chargers. Chargers, you better win this game because you definitely have to win out in order to get into the playoffs. I'm gonna pick the Chargers. Don't you let me down. It looks like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams should be back from protocols. Denver. It looks like Drew Lock's gonna start again. Too inconsistent for me. I'm picking the Chargers, and don't let me down this time, y'all.
The Chargers have lost to the Broncos the last 2 times.
Yeah.
This could be a trap game for we call them the San Diego Los Angeles Chargers on this show. But Rachel, you might have this person as a good-looking guy after yours truly. Justin Herbert, the starting quarterback of the Chargers. I think he's going to play well. They sense in the playoffs a berth on the line. They lost bad at Houston last week. They're going to get back on track. I'm going with the Chargers.
I don't know who that quarterback is.
I'm
looking him up.
Justin Herbert.
Google him. Justin Herbert. Google him.
The only good thing about him is that the Chargers also have great color combinations. So I would pick them just because of the colors right there.
I hope they pick the powder blue. I hope they go with the powder blue. I think I love those colors.
See, exactly. But keep mine short and sweet too. The Chargers. Denver has been having such a roller coaster of the season. It's just taking a nosedive right now. So Chargers.
I'm just shocked that the Chargers are even still a team in the league.
Oh, that's a hot take.
Just based on everything, sharing a city and a stadium. Nobody in LA knows who the Chargers are.
Wow.
Yeah.
She's right.
She's right. That's the sad part. She's right. She is. Yeah. She's right. Okay.
Who? What? There's a Chargers game? No, I don't know what that is.
Chargers, who are they? Well, what are they? What's that? That is true, though, unfortunately. NFC South, you got the Panthers and the Saints. It looks like Sam Darnold will get the start for the Panthers. I don't think, can we just skip this one? I mean, this could be one of those 9-6 or whatever. Saints, because they're at home. I don't know. I don't really care about this game.
Yeah, I'll go with the Saints as well.
Saints, short and sweet.
Saints, because I used to live in New Orleans.
There you go.
That's another good one. Should we?
Do we care about my tidbits? Should I just stop talking?
No. Keep it going.
You know how we do.
No, keep it going. We'll keep it going here. Lions and Seahawks. I wish we could skip this one. The Seahawks. I don't know.
They lost to the Bears last week.
Well, yeah, that's not really saying much. So, okay, Seahawks because they're at home, I guess.
Yeah, Seattle for me as well. They're a 9.5-point favorite. It wouldn't shock me if Detroit won though, unlike the Bears. But never mind. But I'm going with Seattle.
We'll get to that in a little bit. I'm going to the Seahawks.
The Bears fans can't choose the Lions, so I have to go Seahawks.
No, we can't. We physically can't.
It's a lot that we can't do that. Should be a good one here in the NFC America's game of the week. It'll probably be. I know Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, and Aaron Andrews, and I believe Tom Rinaldi will be there in this game. At Jerry's role, Cardinals and the Cowboys. Sid, you take the honors and start this one.
Dallas is favored by 2.5 points. We saw what Arizona did last Saturday night. They came up short against the Indianapolis Colts, even though they technically are in the playoffs thanks to a Vikings loss. The very next day, the Cowboys, as we said all season long, Christine, hashtag Dak is back. You saw that performance last Sunday night. I don't think it's going to be as ugly, but it should be a very competitive game. You got a great quarterback matchup between Kyler Murray and Prescott. I'm going with Dallas by 3.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dallas too. It's great to see too, even, when Dak wasn't playing, he was still the biggest hype man on that sideline. It was awesome to see him just ruining on everybody. And I still think he's going to be considered the comeback player of the year. I really think that. So with that being said, I'm going with Dallas. I feel bad for Arizona. They had such a good start. And then I forgot who was their first loss. But ever since then, it's just kind of been up and down for them.
This should be a really good game. I think it's going to come down to maybe the third or fourth quarter. I feel like it could be first to 30, even though I think we'll see if Trayvon Diggs will probably be a factor. Also, Bubba Baker, that should be a really good matchup in secondary wise. You know what? I'll pick the Cowboys. I thought about maybe picking Arizona, but then I said, no, you know what? They're kind of iffy at this point, so I'm going to pick it. This could be a rematch in the playoffs too. You never know. Yeah. So I'm picking Dallas. What about you, Rachel?
I'm going with Dallas because I forgot at the beginning of this who you said they were playing. So I'm going with Dallas.
I would have thought you would pick Arizona because their coach is pretty hot, Cliff Kingsbury. But
listen, I don't just pick all my teams because of looks, Some of it has to do with uniform colors and team rivalries.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that I see. We appreciate that. Should be going here in the NFC North. You got the Vikings and the Packers, a rematch of a few weeks back where the Vikings were able to pull it off. The Sunday nighter here, but I think the Packers will get their revenge. And unfortunately, I think the Vikings will be officially eliminated from playoff contention.
I agree. I give Minnesota a lot of flack just because I can't stand the Vikings fan out here. So that's why I give them such a hard time. But they have gotten better. I don't think, like our horrible Bears situation, I hope they don't take Zimmer back on because I think they do need a new coaching staff and just rebuilding. And now there's all these rumors about, hey, let's trade Kirk Cousins. So who knows what's going to happen there. Mm-hmm. But I think Green Bay is going to dominate Minnesota for sure. And with what was said earlier about Aaron Rodgers aging, he was in the stands at one point the same time he was playing the game. If you saw that picture, I saw that. So he's something. He's a magician, all right.
Minnesota is they're not favored. Green Bay is favored by 7.5, and 7 points actually. So Minnesota, they need to win out this game and next week's game against Chicago and some help to get into the playoffs. But I don't see that happening. Adam Thielen, their wide receivers on the injured reserve list.
Mm-hmm.
Dalvin Cook, their running back, he's activated, but I don't think it's going to matter. I know they beat Green Bay in Lambeau last year, but I don't see it happening again this year. So I'm unfortunately going with the Packers.
And thanks, Armando, for a little tidbit answering your question, Christine, who was Cardinals' first loss. It was to the Packers. All right. The Sunday night here, let's real quick, AFC, Browns and Steelers, Monday night, you're gonna get the Manning cast, the season finale of the Manning cast. That'll help. That should make this get a little more tolerable. But gosh, I know everybody's back. Baker, Mayfield, you don't know who you're gonna get. This could be one of those 9, 6, 10, 7 games I've been preaching about sometimes. I'm gonna, I'll pick the Browns. This game doesn't really mean anything anymore, so I want to pick the Browns.
Yeah, crazy things have happened, especially in this rivalry. Of course, Mason Rudolph and Myles Garrett with that helmet foolishness a couple of years ago.
Oh God!
And number 2, with having an extra week this year, some crazy things could happen as far as teams battling for the wild card spot. So I'm with you, Lakeena. I'm going with Cleveland.
Let's go, Baker. That's what I'm cheering for right now. Let's go, Baker. The guy I've heard, he's had a rough couple of weeks. So yeah, Pittsburgh, they're pretty much done. Big Ben, this is his last hurrah now for the last couple of weeks with the Steelers. I heard on a radio show today that they were talking about who could possibly replace him, and they threw out the name Aaron Rodgers. They said maybe, if he's sick of being in Green Bay, he'll go over there. So who knows? But for right now, it's Cleveland with the win. Why are you laughing at that? I didn't say it. That was over my words now.
He's going to take his bad look at his bad toe over there.
God, whatever is going on with his toe, that's just disgusting.
Ooh, I don't even want to picture that. Rachel?
Just skip me. You guys keep going. I don't know what to say.
I know. Yeah. Hard to top that.
Because their colors are better. You don't want to do Cleveland with their colors.
Right. That's true.
No. Poor Ohio.
Poor Ohio.
Well, the people who I feel bad for are our buddies Spiro Diaz and Jay Feely, who will be calling this game in Chicago for CBS. I know some people are wondering, like, well, how is that? Well, this is sort of like they did a switch. That Raiders Colts game was supposed to be on CBS, but then they switched it, and now they get the Bears Giants game. If the Bears don't win this game, shame on them. So I'm going to keep it short. I'm just hoping that they get a good game. Probably not, but I'm picking the Bears. But I think Spiro will be calling the Bears win.
The Bears are favored by 4 points. This is the last game of the regular season for those Bears fans at Soldier Field, and this should be the last home game for hopefully soon to be ex-head coach Matt Nagy. It should be. But with that being said, just by circumstance, I'm going with the Bears. And I will not be watching this game live.
Yeah, here's my gripe right now. So once everyone saw Nick Foles do his thing on Sunday, all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, he should have started. And
you called it a couple weeks ago, Christine.
Not just a couple weeks ago. I called it months ago. I just said bringing Andy Dalton on, there was no point in that, especially when you have a great quarterback like Nick Foles, who is definitely not a third stringer. And I heard Matt Nagy's press conference earlier today saying, yeah, Fields and Dalton, they're both going to get snaps at practices, and we'll see how it goes. And I just say, screw that. Sit both of them out. Get rid of Dalton after this year. Keep on Foles, and there's your one or two. Have Fields and Foles battle it out. Whichever one is the best for next year, they start. Foles should be the one that's starting. I don't even know why it's even a question right now who's going to be starting this game when there is no point in having either of those two quarterbacks out there, especially when you have a future franchise quarterback like Justin Fields, who's already dealing with little injuries as it is, and we don't want to make it worse. Thank you, Armando, for saying months ago that they should bring in Foles. Months ago. So it's so frustrating to me, this team. And then I heard the other day saying how the possible coaching prospects for Matt Nagy are not that great this year. I know that you have the offensive coordinator for Kansas that's looking for a job. And then I heard maybe Jim Harbaugh wants to go back into the NFL. But if there are no real coaching prospects, like if you can't see anybody leading the team for the next 5 years, then hold off on it, in my opinion. Don't rush something if you want this team to be better. But the first position that needs to change is the general manager position. It starts at the top. We have to get rid of Ryan Pace first and then work our way down until we figure out what to do with the coaching staff. One of my co-hosts and I, we were talking, and he's like, man, Nagy's the worst thing to ever happen to the Bears. I disagree with that, because at one point when he started, he was the coach of the year in 2018. He took them to 2 playoffs. One of them was probably a fluke. But, he has led the Bears to success. In my opinion, Trestman was the worst Bears coach.
Thank you.
That's true. Yeah, exactly.
And so Matt Nagy is not the demise of the Bears. He just was not ready to coach a team of this caliber. He wasn't ready to coach the original team of football, I'll say. So, and plus it was his first head coaching position. So I wouldn't knock Nagy for saying, oh, he was the worst thing for the Bears. Absolutely not.
You got anything to add, Rachel?
I just love Chicago sports. I just love that, like, people are like, fire Nagy, he's the worst.
No.
What are we doing with this quarterback? No, I know, but like I don't agree.
Yeah.
I'm like, this whole situation with all these incredible quarterbacks we have, and like they're starting the worst one. And I just love the way that Chicago fans and like experts like ourselves speak about it, because there's like so much passion and frustration that you can just feel from the fan base when we talk about it, that I don't think I've heard from, that I don't hear from a lot of other people. But it's like, we know better. We know who should be starting. Like, and that's just how it always is in Chicago with all the sports, you know? So go Bears, obviously.
There you go.
Nice. All right. And those are your week 17 picks in the National Football League. Wrapping things up here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago with Cindy Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee, along with Christine Manika from KSRB and our girl Rachel Kopczyk from the Hockey Lady podcast. Armando, thanks for all the comments. Armando, he says, Nagy's downfall was unwillingness to give up play calling. He thinks his playbook is the star of the Chicago Bears. The Denny's menu, as I call it. The Denny's menu of plays.
BU.
BU. Go and BU. But yeah, look, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, after this, we'll be talking about coaching. But I think the fact that he hasn't been told that he's going to be let go and that they're not talking to other candidates, the Bears brasses, makes me wonder that if they win against the Giants and perhaps maybe Minnesota, maybe he does somehow get brought back. I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying anything. I'm not going to try to put all the bad juju.
Even
but
if it's just a year, because if they want to find the next guy to lead the Bears, you got to do it right. You can't rush into it, especially when there really isn't a prospect out there. My opinion, bring me back Lovie Smith right now, because we got rid of that guy when he was 10-6. So I'm willing to have that happen.
We have a couple minutes left for our last show for 2021. Rachel, Christine, you guys, for our Sports Zone Chicago audience, Rachel, you and Christine also has something in common with yours truly. Both of Christine, Rachel is a diehard White Sox fan.
Yes.
So you have a new White Sox friend now.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Yes, you do. Yes, she is.
Oh my God. So can I just say my boyfriend's amazing. He got me a Jermaine Dye jersey for Christmas.
Yay!
Nice.
No.
Yes. So everyone gives me flack because all I have is a Gordon Beckham t-shirt and a Gordon Beckham jersey. I still love Gordon Beckham, but my all-time favorite, I know, make fun of me. My all-time favorite White Sox player is Jermaine Dye. So he got me a Jermaine Dye jersey, and then my mom, she got me a really cute Baby Yoda shirt that says Southside on it, and he's in a little Chicago White Sox jersey.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's so cute.
Well, I think it's safe to say that you guys' favorite moment.
You know what I would love is
go ahead. No, finish, Rachel. No. I was just gonna say that your favorite moment.
Love a Seguin jersey. If I could find one of those, I would rock that. Oh my God, I miss.
I have one, Rachel. Actually, I have one.
Well, in the divorce, I get that.
On that note.
Well, I think it's safe to say, since we're going to be talking, real quick about our favorite moment. I'm sure you guys' favorite moments is you're all White Sox fans. The Sox winning the AL Central. Is that your favorite moment for 2021 in sports?
Oh boy.
Yes.
No, firing Colleton is mine.
There you go.
Oh yeah, that's true.
A good one.
I was like 3 years too late. So
yeah,
right, that's true. Yeah.
I think my favorite Chicago sports moment, got to give a little shout out to the Chicago Sky in their first WNBA. So yeah, that's a really cool moment, especially for women in sports and just the WNBA in general.
Well, and Candace Parker was just named AP Women's Sports of the Year, Female Athlete of the Year. So, and very deserving too. Congratulations. Yeah, that's up there. Also to the Bulls resurgence. I think that's another good one.
Mm-hmm.
I think nationally, the Baylor men's hoops team winning the title. Scott Drew with everything that program's gone through before he got there, and the fact that he was able to start from nothing. Now they're the top rated team in the country still right now. So I think that's probably going. Also to the Olympics, I think Suni Lee, becoming a big star. Allison Felix, came up with the women in sports, finishing up on top, leading the women's 4x400 meter relay team to gold, again in that event. So a lot of great moments all around.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you guys more. One more subject to tackle before we close up shop. Christine, I'll start with you first. Ray, you go second. John Madden, Pro Football Hall of Famer, broadcaster, and head coach, passed away at the age of 85 yesterday. And of course, locally, Jeff Dickerson, ESPN Chicago Bears reporter, passed away at the age of 44. Christine, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on those two gentlemen?
I meant to say something about Jeff Dickerson before I got into my little Bears rant there, but absolutely, hearts go out to that little boy. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine what that family is going through right now, especially just seeing all the great tributes from local and nationwide broadcasters, just about how great of a guy Jeff Dickerson was. And I've heard him a couple of times. I've read his stuff as well. It's incredibly sad. And shout out to the Eagles owner. He donated $10,000 on that GoFundMe page. That's amazing in itself. And it just speaks to the type of character that Jeff Dickerson was. So definitely my hearts go out to his family. Hearts go out to John Madden's family as well. That's unexpected. And he is the face, the voice, everything football, anything NFL is always John Madden. So definitely a sad day in the sports industry, including especially football.
Rachel?
Exactly. It's like Madden was the father of football, as we know it today, our generation and even, the ones before. But it is just sad to see. And I mean, gosh, he was 85, though. He's been around, and gosh, he did that for how many years? He was involved calling games. And I mean, geez, what a guy, what a legend and an impact he made on the sport and the way that it's covered today. So hearts out to everybody who's suffered a loss this season.
As I said earlier in the show, a generation knows John Madden as a head coach. Our generation, Lakeena, Rachel, we know him as a broadcaster, and Christine's generation knows him as just a guy's name on a video game.
Yeah.
So he covered all generations.
A little bit more credit than that.
Some of you, but I'm just saying overall.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, overall, and I think like it's been said, seeing how the game has evolved, with the graphics and such. Yeah, the gameplay might have gone down a little bit, in recent years, but even still, check out all this stuff. Check out all Madden. It's going to be on the big Fox network the next couple of days. Also, too, on streaming services like ESPN Plus and Peacock and Tubi. So make sure you guys check that out when you get a chance. Also, to an update on Jeff Dickerson's son, Parker, a GoFundMe page for him. Both the Chicago Blackhawks and Tom Ricketts, who's the owner of the Cubs, have each donated $5,000 in that GoFundMe, which is already is about 377,000 right now. So it's approaching 400,000. So, I'm sure folks are going to be making sure that Parker gets whatever he needs, and a support system is just a sad situation all around. I'm also too thoughts and prayers go out to both the Dickerson and the Madden families. But let's end on a high note, folks. Real quick though, what were you guys' predictions for like sports in 2022? Rachel, you start this one with hockey, or any other sport you want to deal with.
Oh, I just hope we get a full season and playoffs, and that COVID doesn't take down any of the guys, and that the Tampa Bay Lightning don't win the Stanley Cup again. How about that?
That would be 3 in a row for them. Christine?
I agree. I hope that everything goes as smoothly as possible. We don't want to see another shutdown happen. I hope the MLB can get their act together with each other and they can come to some sort of an agreement. And just overall, let's have a good 2022.
Same here. When that lockout ends, hopefully the White Sox can get a comparable second baseman. Yes. Okay.
Which they need.
And hopefully they can get past the divisional round and perhaps take it all the way. Yeah. I know we're a long ways away from that, but hopefully the Sox can do better than they did a year ago. Last year was a step winning the division, but you got to do better this year because all eyes on you now. It's difference between being the hunters. Now you're going to be the hunted.
Yeah. Echo all of that. Hope that everything goes off without a hitch in all sports, especially with the Olympics coming up. I know that's a whole nother conversation with other stuff, but we don't have time for that. Hopefully the Bulls can, not necessarily make a run to the Eastern Conference, but if they can at least get to the second round, I think that would be good. And also too, hopefully baseball gets their gets their acts together. I don't know who's going to win the Super Bowl. It could be the Chiefs. It could be the Bucks again. It could be somebody else. I don't know, but I'm not good with that kind of stuff. But just so that everything goes out without a hitch in 2022, and all around for everybody. 2022.
Yeah.
Hopefully
hopefully we can get Rachel on the Bulls bandwagon again.
Yeah, they've been good this year. Rachel, come on.
Nope, I can't follow the NBA. I can't. I dislike it very much.
Oh,
sorry.
Trust me, when the Bulls make it to the finals, she'll be back on there real quick.
Yeah.
No,
or it was the Eastern Conference
I'm
semifinals.
sticking to my morals.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I mean, great, wonderful if they win, but like, I can't. It hurts my brain too much to watch the NBA.
I'll work on it for you guys. That's my new project for 2022.
Yeah, that's it. Get on the Bulls back, man. So that'll be your job.
and plus, Rachel, when you come back to Chicago, hopefully this summer, we definitely got to hang out at a White Sox game. I'm putting it on record right now.
Yes, and thumbs up our pictures everywhere. Yes, keep that.
Oh
up.
yes, I meant to do this, but thank you for giving me started. Go to my not Twitter, but go to my Instagram, SidKid80. Rachel inspired me because I was at the Cubs Sox series last year for 3 games, one at Wrigley and then the 2 at Comiskey with a thumbs down. Thank you, Rachel. Check it out there. She really inspired me to do that. Thank you, Rachel.
On that note, you
You're
follow me at
welcome.
Keena
It's the little things.
The little
Yes.
things. It's a little things, you gotta do. On that note, you follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Christine, where can people follow you?
They can follow me on Twitter at CManika_KXRB.
And Rachel, where can people follow you on the IG?
On Instagram, it's at the Hockey Lady, and you can listen to the podcast I co-host wherever you listen to podcasts at the House of Hockey podcast.
All right. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you catch our audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, at War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms there. And you can follow War Media at WAR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. A couple of quick shouts before we close up shop for 2021. Thank you very much to Sean Sierra and Maya Kai for bringing us along to do our live show. We were doing podcasts for the last year or so. It's great to have a great platform to do live shows again. So thank both those wonderful people, one and all. And thank you to Kyle Means. He's at NBC Sports Chicago as well, but he's the head content director at War Media, still puts out our audio version of our podcast. So thank those 3 people, one and all.
And also all the guests, including these 2 lovely ladies, for joining us over the last year. We're definitely going to be bringing them on again in 2022. Also, folks like, Rob Schaefer, Matt Peck, Big Dave Watson, Mark Grody from 670 The Score, numerous others that have followed us at this platform.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get
Alana
more
Tuckhour.
Alana Tuckhour, also to
Josh Hicks, Sean
Hicks.
Davis.
Yes.
Love them all.
Yes.
To me, it's a name, but well, we think of the ones that joined us this year. We think the one and all. We'll bring them all back along with new folks next year.
So new faces. So happy New Year, everybody. As Armando, thank you so much, Armando, for supporting us through all this. Tell your friends about us as well. So you guys have a safe and happy New Year. For Sid, Christine, and Rachel, I'm Lakeena. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you in 2022.
Till 2022, January 3rd. Holla!